team identity when you have all these different generations of players. As I say that though, we're gonna hop right into champ select. Karma is our first ban for the side of Wildcard Red. Not looking to play against that flex pick that could go to any solo lane, provide a lot of late game AoE shielding, that utility. Obviously a very annoying pick to play against, and they're just gonna get that one off the board. That's gonna be answered from Radiance. The Gwen, the Varus already taken away. Gwen is, from what I've gathered from all the different pro players that I've spoken to about Gwen, one thing seems to be certain: the more they play the champion, the more they start to like it, and the more I think a lot of people are starting to realize the capabilities of the champion and how ridiculous she can be in certain situations, especially when you have, I believe it's her W, the one it makes her just so hard to hit, especially if you have a longer range AD carry, because you have to get up close and personal to actually deal with the champion. And that being said, Rumble is our first pick. That is no surprise there. Quickest speed in the West. He's going to be looking to blow through the jungle and get onto the scuttles real quick.
And of course, Radiance answered back with the Kindred and the Lulu. Pretty surprising for them to actually go right into a hyper carry situation, and of course kiting back. We've seen Kindred be a solid counter into the Rumble, knowing that Lamb's Respite, it helps out, especially with that equalizer. But I want to touch back on this Gwen ban, because the reason why Radiance banned this, I know you mentioned that a lot of pro players, of course, liking this champion a lot. Bradley is 110% the best Gwen right now in Proving Grounds. No question. No one can deny this pick from Bradley and how his mastery of this champion is going to be. There's a reason why we saw Marival ban it so much against Bethany, and that I understand why Radiance is going to ban that away. Varus, of course, is something that is so versatile right now in the draft, but with Wildcard Red already locking that Lee Sin as another flex for themselves, and then Nolus in the bottom lane, they are 120% showing that they are going to be looking to see if they can dive against the Radiance's team, and of course, knock some people out of that Lamb's Respite when it comes down.
Absolutely, and if there is one downside to playing this Kindred into Rumble matchup, it's the fact that Rumble can outclear you so heavily. We saw in some of the largest tournaments, MSI, the Kindred picked up by the Blabber, but when it went up against some of these really fast clear times, like the Morgana, like the Rumble, it struggled a little bit just because Kindred just simply doesn't have the same kind of clear speed. You're going to get full cleared on by the Rumble over and over again if he gets any bit ahead, and it's going to be up to Kindred to try and find the plays to really make the matchup worth it, and to really scale into that late game with a healthy amount of marks and a healthy amount of gold to really get activated by the Lulu to stand out.
So Radiance is now fulfilling more of that, we're going to be focusing on kiting back and away, as we're going to be locked in, fulfilling that need too of just making sure that they have a lot of ways and a lot of innate mobility built in their kit to get away from these three champs that Wildcard Red has been showing for themselves. Of course, Radiance is going to be banning more of these champs that can dive in. Kaisa known as a counter against Ezreal. Killer Instinct, of course, can help dive along with the rest of Wildcard Red, which is why I like that ban. And of course, for Wildcard Red, all they need to do is ban champions that are good bodyguards and good frontline for the Radiance team. They need to get rid of this lineman so that the quarterbacks of Radiance can actually thrive. Set being banned away is one of them. But I talk about linemen, Tristan. Braum is going to be a big one for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't help but feel like those two AD carry bans are partially due to the fact that they're going against Arrow. They don't want to give them these ridiculous carries that can 1v9 a game, the Tristana, the Kaisa. And not to mention, I mean, the only unfulfilled roles are going to be a guaranteed AD carry. The rest of the picks can kind of be flexed around to an extent. Lee Sin, we saw it being brought out in solo lanes several times before, and so you could just be wasting a ban if that Lee Sin is to be pivoted. And so great usage of the second round of bans just to pinch that AD carry pool that much more. It looks like Arrow's actually going with the Aphelios, and Aphelios without an Enchanter support, that can be a little bit scary, especially if they find access to the backlines. That being said, though, it's very obvious that Radiance has a composition that wants to kite back, and so maybe that's the thought process of Arrow, just knowing that he won't have to deal with too many divers. He's going to be free to stand on the front lines and to help his team move forward into the Lamb's Respite. But that being said, they throw everything at the wall last second. No more kiting back. We have Malphite to engage straight onto this Aphelios, get the attack speed slows, reduce his damage as much as possible, and make these team fights that much more manageable going up against some of these hyperscalers.
Yeah, very interesting that Wildcard Red opted to pivot away from the rest of the three who are diving in, mainly because they just recognize that, Radiance, they got a lot of members who could just make sure that we cannot get in there. Instead, why don't we start poking them out? Why don't we start just picking champions that can actually deal with them from a range? Aphelios, of course, has the ultimate that can join in. Jace, 100% going to be looking at Shock Blossom from a distance with that acceleration gate too. And that's why you see Radiance opt in for that Malphite. Like, yo, crap, we need something that can actually be a Betty bodyguard. And in case if they get ahead, we need some form of engage. Malphite going to be locked in. But this is where you look at Radiance. You know, this is where we look at the 4 and the 1. Malphite individually wants to go in, but the 4 for sure want to kite back if there's a miscommunication from Radiance where, you know, Malphite goes in and the 4 can't catch up, whether through terrain, whether through the equalizer, whether through depth charge, something on Wildcard Red's side. This is where Radiance, I can see them being a little bit crippled when it comes to these team fights, but they do have a chance. They do have a really solid composition that scales well at that one item spike. With Ezreal, of course, Lulu is going to be a good champion that can facilitate Kindred too, but it is a tough game to play knowing that you are waiting for Wildcard Red to make a mistake on the initial play.
Yeah, this one is really just going to be about picking and finding your engagements without overextending, because if you overextend on either of these teams, there are so many tools to punish you. That Malphite engagement can really hurt some of your immobile carries like the Aphelios. And yes, Jace has the extra movement speed to work with, but he doesn't have any dashes. There is no guarantee that he can react to that Malphite ult. And so they're essentially going to be sitting ducks if they're left without protection from their team comp. So overdiving could end up being killer for either of these compositions, especially if you have the Malphite engaging the rest of the team trying to follow up. Nautilus Rumble, those two ultimates can be layered perfectly, and that can really just shred your team apart. Yes, the Lamb's Respite can keep you from actually drawing into that fatal markings for your HP bars, but at the same time, I mean, if you're sitting in a Lamb's Respite at 1 HP, all they have to do is wait it out, re-aggress, and you're pretty much done for. And so it's really about who's going to find this better engage, who's going to keep their carry safer, and who can keep spitting out that consistent DPS from some of those hypers come this late game.
We take a look at late game, Tristan. Of course, Aphelios is going to be the one that is notorious for Wildcard Red. Arrow has been the one that has been playing this champion the most so far in Challengers Uprising. He has been a menace on this champion compared to other 80 carries who hasn't really rocked the Aphelios. A lot of these 80 carries have been rocking the Kaisa, knowing that that's one of the best champions right now on the patch. But Arrow's been one who's been staying true to this champion. It's one of the reasons why the champion's so dangerous in his hands. Cycling them guns changes a lot when it comes to the way Wildcard Red can want to change the game. And you know you mentioned that Radiance, of course, they can't pull the trigger. I don't know if you want to pull the trigger when Wildcard Red can also just do the same exact thing. That's why I'm kind of wondering what Radiance can do. But if Radiance can get the ball going in the early game or punish Jace on the top lane, that can be something that can work out. Or in the mid lane too, at least in as a melee champion going against Lulu. Whimsy's going to hurt a lot, especially when it comes to those ganks. These are things I want to see Radiance go and punish for in the early game, making sure you're abusing Lulu CC and making sure you are able to help out that Malphite in the early game so that Jace does not work out for Dokla.
Yeah, I mean, this is a Lulu mid lane, by the way, so this is going to be interesting to see. I'm not sure what the matchup is going to be. I believe that's going to be either a Jace or a Lee Sin mid lane. Those two champions can be pivoted either way. Rumble probably going to go to the jungle, and yeah, it's gonna be a solo lane Lee Sin we got here. The only question is which lane they decide to throw that one off to. I would assume we're going to be seeing the Jace go up against the Lulu. That is a pretty well-known counter pick.
Yeah,
I've seen that come out several times, whether it be, you know, the in-houses, actual competitive play, but it's pretty staple by this point. And so I'm expecting to see that Jace go towards the mid lane. And as I say that, we're getting our lock-ins. Bradley will be piloting the Jace. He's actually going to be a kind of a switch up here. Lulu is going to be taken up into the top lane by the real Philip. I've seen this a lot, mostly from, I believe it was Bob Jenkins, who played a ton of Lulu. Whenever he could, he made it look like an absolute menace up in the top lane, bodying some of the best LCS mid laners or top laners I've seen. So this is not just a slouch pick that can be ran over easily, but if there's any a pick that could take advantage of a relatively weak laning phase, it's Lee Sin.
This is where we look at what Radiance want to do, and they want to make sure they have the good matchup into the good matchups. Malphite beats Jace. Lulu can hold their own against Lee Sin. There's a reason why we see Philip and Sochi swap these champions around, but well, I'm just excited to see what happens in this game because we are going to be going to spectate real quick, Tristan.
Yes, sir. And I'm interested to see what kind of builds they go as well. Is this Malphite going to be the full tank, or do we want to see more AP out of it? I mean, they already have the Braum. They have the Lulu to keep the Braum relatively tankier, whoever is on the front lines. Do they prioritize having the bigger tank, having the meatier front line, or do they want more backline threat with the AP builds? I'm interested. I feel like there's merit to either build in the situation just because Malphite's going to be going against a bunch of immobile champions in the Rumble, the Jace, the Aphelios. There's a lot of big ultimates you can find your way in on if you have these different champions lined up without flash. And even then, if you have the right angle for Malphite ult, it is so difficult to react to that. This is being played online. This is most likely going to be a server with a decent amount of ping on it, making it even harder to react. And so, I mean, there's a online Malphite versus LAN Malphite. Those are two different situations and a big difference in reaction times that you have to have if you want to stay safe from that.
Yeah, but Tristan, we're just going to be throwing a quick break as we are going to be having a spectator delay. It's going to be quite a bit here, Tristan, but I'm excited. You mentioned all these builds and all these things. We have to see what Radiance can do against Wildcard Red because this is a team that they have to compete against themselves and see if they can actually match up to the test. We'll be right back, guys, so stick around.
Welcome back, welcome back. We are live with Radiance versus Wildcard Red, and I am joined once again by Chilling Walk. How you doing? How you feeling about this matchup?
Woo! Honestly, bro, mad excited to see what they want to do. Special Wildcard Red coming out hot with this little spicy level 1, man. They're going full on top side to make sure that they can actually get some agency against this Lulu. Make sure Philip backs away just carefully. Oh, okay. They flashed forward already. My God.
Flash. Wow, that was quick. Daption just hits the gas as soon as he sees anyone on the map, leveling up even the Whimsy level 1 for the Lulu.
Yeah, something that you got to be mindful of, especially when you're in this certain situations of level 1. You know, that's why you always want to save it no matter what. However, I do want to point out that right now for Wildcard Red, they are going to be starting on the top side. Actually, I don't know if they're going to start on the top side, but they do definitely have mad vision of the top side control. I know you mentioned before that Winston on the Rumble has faster clear against his Kindred, and this is where I wonder if they want to do something a little bit different. It's looking like they're going to be staying the same on this top side. They got mad vision, so it's going to be the one that's going to be caught out just a little bit here as they're going to back away.
And there isn't really a lot of trading power in this Lulu right now. I mean, having to level the Whimsy level 1, Malphite obviously not the greatest level 1 champion in the game. No real way that they can contest this. And so it's going to be pretty free for Winston to just steal away the red buff and start on this top side.
But this is where, going back into the little role swap, Philip, of course, playing into Dokka's Lee Sin, Chochi playing the Malphite into Bradley's Jace. This is where I actually do like Radiance going for the swap because they do have the ideal matchups for themselves. One thing to note, though, is that knowing that Winston has started at his top side, the question is, can Winston get himself all the way back to the bottom side of the quadrant to defend his red buff? That's always something that you gotta wonder, because we see this happen sometimes on Olaf, we see this happen sometimes on these fast clears, but instead it looks like we are gonna have a little bit of a vertical jungling occur for the side of Wildcard Red and for Radiance. Bluster, completely bot side, Winston, completely top side.
Yeah, and I guess this really shows the hand of where both junglers are going to be playing to this game. It's going to be really difficult for the Rumble to move bot side, and so it's probably just going to end up being this Aphelios playing more of the weaker side, not getting as much attention as we see up in the top lane. You see exactly why this Lulu is such a menace in these early games. Dokla already getting chunked down to a bit under half HP, going to have to eat up some of the cookies if he brought those to the lane, the pots as well. And I mean, this is just the state of the lane. You have these Lulus that can play aggressive as they want early, as we see a Rumble hovering towards the top side, is level 3, but can't find any pressure just yet.
The wave wasn't ideal for Dokla for that gank. Gonna take a tower shot, but should be okay. The chase is gonna come through. So far, not a lot of action. It's mainly just more of handshakes. The biggest thing we have to be mindful of is the current wave of top lane and bottom lane, as knowing that junglers are going to be, as I said, handshake on both sides. And with Dokla, of course, maintaining this pressure and in a, you could say in a pretty awkward situation, isn't really going to be the best look for himself, unless he can get this crash in, which looks like it will be unless Philip is. No, man, he's trying to make it ice cold in the top lane.
Oh yeah, looking for the freeze. We may see Dokla just teleport back, use his item advantage and the HP advantage to just force that one all the way in. Would be nice to have his jungler there to help him push the wave all the way in, but instead, I mean, it's the current jungle meta is all about just having that most efficient clear speed possible, getting those camps on respawn as quick as you can, and so any time being spent early up in the top lane could end up hurting them more than it actually helps them, as we see Bluster in the mid lane trying to go for a gank here, gonna get that extra slow from Sochi, kites back to his jungler, flashes over the wall, but these end up trading places. First blood for Bluster, and that is so awkward. Winston, that's a blunder himself.
Yeah, a little bit of miscommunication from Winston and Bradley. Bradley thinking that he could flash away, and then Winston's just going to stay right there to help him out. But then Bluster flashes over. Winston's like, don't worry, dog, I got this. And he's like, aw, crap. Losing that first kill is going to be really bad, Tristan, because this is the Jace that we were talking about. You need to make sure this guy comes out ahead when it comes to his laning, and even though he's ahead in this lane against Shochi, experience is also another part of the game. Forcing you to use that teleport to get the wave under turret is going to be a little bit costly, and along with that, knowing that he died, knowing that he flashed away, Bluster can always come in for a repeat the moment Shochi turns 6.
Yeah, and already the Jace just not really doing a lot of damage to this Malphite. Just the 2 ruby crystals are enough to have him sustain through all the poke. And as I say that, at least there is a small silver lining. Winston did get the topside scuttle. The RNG did not go the favor of Bluster. He didn't get his first mark, and so they can stall out the Kindred, the rampant scaling for just a little bit longer, as we see the real Philip zoned off in the top lane. Winston was showing pressure, threatening a dive there as the Lee Sin was about to reach the level 6 mark, and the real Philip decides to play it as safe as possible, just back all the way to his tier 2 and get a safe base off for himself.
Remember that Lulu isn't so much as a counter as much as it is a neutralizer. That's all Philip wants to do and make sure he can get to. Dokler's going to take a plate for himself, and this is where, you know, usually when we take a look at this matchup in a jungle path that is relatively horizontal from both these teams, Lulu can put out that pressure, but because of this vertical jungling, Philip has to always be mindful of where Winston's going to be. Knowing that Winston has reset, Philip is going to have a little bit of reprieve so that he can actually push out this lane, but pay attention where Dokler's at. He's trying to see if he can take down Shochi.
Oh, this is perfect timing on the gank. Level 6 being reached for Sochi just in the nick of time, but he can't activate it. He's going to get taken down, and a bit of revenge in the mid lane, this time going the way of Bradley.
Good stuff on that. Finally, Bradley back in the game at this point now with the CS lead too. Daption and Arrow going to find a little bit of a 2v2, but not going to create as much action. But all Dokla is doing right now is trying to see if he can run circles around the map.
Yeah, he still has the Dragon's Rage available. Didn't actually have to use it on the mid lane gank, and so he can use that pressure up in the top lane. The real Philip, though, still has damage in spades, despite being down a fair bit of CS. 2 Dorn's items for the Lee Sin to try and really put the pressure on in this laning phase, but Lulu is no pushover, despite how it may look, despite the scaling matchup.
Yeah, but right now, Wildcard Red, they are going to be starting the Mountain Drake for themselves. Chochi is level 6, but because of the wave situation of Vex and Keetong and Sochi, of course, they're going to be giving this dragon up. Now the question is going to be, what can Radiance get in return? And so far, it's not really anything. 8 minutes is going to be turning around the mark in just another minute, of course. And this is where I wonder if they want to actually fight for the first Rift Arrow that we've seen many times, many teams go for. I mean, they definitely can. Vex and Keetong a little bit better when it comes to overall skirmishing because of the Braum and the early scaling of Ezreal. This is what I want to see from Radiance, if they want to flip the script and get that first Rift Herald.
Yeah, and towards the top side, you see Dokla just moving into the river. He wants to get a few fruits for himself to get back to a decent amount of HP, because Lee Sin can really press the issue. If he's sitting at the same HP, if he's still at high HP versus this Lulu, he can really start peppering with the damage. As I say that, though, looking towards the bot lane, this Ezreal holding up fairly well, but he hasn't backed for his tier just yet. You know Vex is trying to get this pushed in to get his back off. He needs to get that stacking, and he needs to do it soon, lest he risk just being stuck in one of those permanent lane states where you're constantly getting shoved in. Can never really find a good back for yourself. As I say that, though, Bluster makes his move into the bot lane. Daption in some trouble here, gonna eat the exhaust, holds the flash, nerves of steel. He's gonna get out A-OK.
Yeah, but of course, Arrow having the ultimate for himself and getting mad chakrams means that, nah, you ain't going to be crashing this wave. You're not going to be holding this wave so that we can crash as well. So I'm liking that Arrow and Daption actually calling out Vex and Keto. I mean, along with Bluster, too. We look at the numbers. It's a 2v3, but they're actually okay with it. Winston on the top lane could potentially look for a dive, too, because Philip, he has a wave under his turret.
Oh yeah, he could get pinned in with the Dragon's Rage.
Oh.
It is absolutely anti-synergy, though. That went as badly as it possibly could have down to the bot side. We're seeing mirrored skirmishes, mirrored dives as Dokla will get flashed away from by the real Philip, and that was disaster striking. I cannot believe that went so poorly. The communication obviously not there.
A little bit of a blunder from Dokla and Winston. The idea was 100% correct, though. When you have that wave in that situation, you should set up a dive. You had ultimates on deck. Unfortunately, Mr. Dokla himself kicked him away from Winston's equalizer, and that actually bought a lot of time for Philip to actually play under the turret. So a little bit of a mistake on that end. But on the bottom side, too, though, Vex and Keetong doing themselves a good job of holding themselves also in a dive, too. Many of this aggressive plays are actually being halted off by Radiance, and that's a good thing for them, because that's what they need to do, especially in this early game.
Yeah, and as we see Bluster, he wants to take another fight, this time with Winston in the river, has the overheat, smites for HP, can't get away in time, the Jace will arrive, Bradley even expends his flash, won't get the assist for it, but it's the kill taken nonetheless, solo jungle v jungle.
Question marks on Radiance's team right now, knowing that Bluster went there by himself. Sochi wasn't around the corner, Philip wasn't either. And that's where he just kind of walked up there and just kind of traded his life for nothing. I mean, the one thing he was trying to go for was, of course, fighting over that Rift Scuttle. But we take a look at the 9-minute mark. Look who's on the top side, Tristan. We have Arrow. We have Daption. playing for this early Rift Herald, and this is what I actually want to see from Radiance on the opposite side, because they do have a little bit of skirmishing ability. But Philip, he's going to get hooked up again.
Flashless with no ult, Wild Growth not available. This should be picked up with ease. Daption unfortunately does pick up the kill with the Ignite. Doesn't get donated over to his mid laner like he planned, but either way, it's a kill nonetheless. Up in the top lane, I mean, that was easy peasy. The real Philip using everything to avoid death on the dive. You can't really push up past the river at that point because it's so easy to get flanked out by a roaming support, jungle, whatever it may be.
And along with that too, we see Wildcard Red catching up on a good swap as well. Now we have Dokla in the top lane with the Rift Herald for himself to inject himself more gold. Remember, this is the person on Bethany Esports that loves playing with gold, loves being a side lane and playing that one-on-one, especially with this gold injection, is going to be helping him out so much, and especially against Philip in a winning matchup. This is where I'm looking at Radiance, and I haven't seen Shochi make a play. That's something we got to ask, man. Are you going to be doing something across the map, or are you just going to be chilling in the mid lane? Because right now, the Radiance members need him to be the big source of action.
Yeah, and it definitely doesn't help. I mean, Malphite's wave clear is very limited. It's easy to get shoved in, and when you're shoved in constantly, it makes it very risky to actually go for those roam plays because you're going to be missing so many plates in the mid lane and missing so many waves. It's really something you have to guarantee a kill if you're going to be roaming off to the side lane. And now that he has his Frostfire Gauntlet completed, he can really have that extra sticking power on maybe a flashless carry to help take them down that much easier. That being said, the only one without a flash right now is Bradley. It's got to be that Jace, if he wants a good chance at killing them, unless he maybe has some kind of secret bush play set up where there is no vision of the ultimate coming out.
Yeah, but that's where we haven't seen Shoshi even make an aggressive move. I know you mentioned the sticking power Frostfire Gauntlet, but he hasn't moved around the map to stick on anyone. He's just been chilling in lane the entire time, and I want to make sure if he actually get out of here and start some fights, because he's basically already useful at this point. It doesn't matter if he gets more tank damage or not. You don't need as much gold, but look at Wildcard. They're still stepping up to create some more action, as well as they send themselves up for the second Drake.
Yeah, it looks like there's just a bit of nerves right now to actually take a fight for the side of Radiance here. As we see the second dragon being started up, it looks like Radiance is just backing off now. They're going to cut their losses. Don't want to throw the entire game away on a botched dragon fight, especially if they don't feel like they're as strong at the moment. 2,000 gold down. Your Ezreal hasn't gotten his Muramana completed just yet. Only 63 stacks at the moment. He's got the full item complete as we see Bluster getting chased all the way through the jungle. Ultimate's being expended. The Lamb's Respite will come out, but he immediately just gets kicked out. That's the Dragon's Rage, keeping him out of safety. Bluster will go down yet again.
One of the reasons why we say Lee Sin is a counter to Kindred. Even though it ain't the jungle matchup, you can still kick her out of the damn Lamb's Respite no matter what you want to do. Liking that little invade from Wildcard Red, still pushing the pressure on top of the board. Right at this point now, it's only going to be Vex by himself. Goodbye, good sir.
He gets flashed on, the auto just guaranteeing the hook for action, but a flash forward, Keaton goes for the re-engagement. Okay. It's not like he's going to be able to find a kill, but he keeps his AD carry safe, and Ezreal can still fire away with the Qs. The top laner arriving as well. It's a party in the bot lane, but only one team's got the invite.
Man, what a save from Keaton. That's what you call a lineman right there. Making sure his quarterback does not get sacked from the squad of Arrow and Daption. Good stuff on them and a good way of just defending that aggressive play right now, but they still have a little bit of ways to go, Tristan. They still need to make sure they get to that point of that 1-2 item spike where they actually can start looking for fights. So far, Radiance, they've been playing on the defensive end. They've been waiting for Wildcard Red to create some action, whereas this point in time, they need to figure out when they want to actually turn on that clock and flip the switch.
Yeah, and really good news for Wildcard Gaming. It is the Infernal Soul, one of the most valuable in the game. And if you're able to pick this up, you already have the 2-dragon lead. That can just single-handedly be your win condition to take this one home. And that being said, it really puts Radiance on a timer. They can't be allowing too many dragons to go over. Even Soul Point is extremely sketchy because from then on, you have to be perfect. You cannot die before the dragon spawns at any point, lest you risk this game just tipping over and becoming unwinnable. And really, the time is ticking and the clock has started for this Ezreal to start ramping up in power.
I will say though, if you're going to be starting any sort of fight, if I'm Radiance, third Drake is definitely going to be a solid plan. That's where you can start fighting. That's where you can start spiking. Of course, you don't want to take shock blasts in the face like what Vex is doing, but if you are there first, or if you're just shooting some mystic shots and poking them out or forcing them to walk into you, that could be the game plan. But so far in this Vision game, Wildcard has been the team that's been stepping up and getting this offensive vision down on the board. Look at them control this bottom side quadrant, Tristan. Look at them look for some picks here. Whereas Radiance, they're giving up a lot of space because they have the need to feel safe. Where in reality, you can't just walk up and poke them out. You can't just look to see if you can start some action from Shochi if you have some flank wards right now. But with Wildcard Red, take them wherever they want. They need to find something.
Out goes the equalizer. Winston, feeling the pressure of the Lulu Kindred combo, gets himself to safety by just burning everything, burning the ultimate to ensure that they can't chase onto him too much. And going off of your point of the vision, look at Wildcard Gaming. Look at their river right now. They have the trifecta of the pink ward setup. As we see the engage going out into the mid lane, Glacial Fissure being used early on. They want to finish the turret before the teleport can come through. That's been denied. Now Bradley just walking directly into the Lamb's Respite, trying to hit Vex AD out of it. Instead, he's going to be firing for just a little bit longer. Not long for the world though, as he's going to be the next one dropped in the fight. 6-2, as that's Wildcard Gaming propelling themselves even further ahead.
Yeah, good stuff on Wildcard Red to recognize that they could take that turret down as soon as possible the moment that teleport came in. I think Radiance thought that they had enough time for Shochi to come in with that teleport, but because teleport does not prevent the turret from falling down, it was a good way for Wildcard Red to actually punish that decision on their terms. Knowing they're taking down the middle outer turret, knowing that top outer turret's gone down, knowing that all three outer turrets are gone down, at this point, they're going to be looking to put all of this vision in that jungle and making sure that Bluster does not get to farm.
Ooh, Sochi may just expend the ultimate here. A short flash by Bradley. He's still going to get caught by the auto attack and the slows from the Frostfire Gauntlet. The Q comes up to follow, and he's still being chased all the way through the lane, despite everyone else on the team having given up already. And at some point, Sochi just has to realize that there is no chance to the kill at that point. Bradley losing flash, but keeping his life. And all credit to Bradley in that little mid lane skirmish, because he was the one on his team to walk up to that tower when the rest of his team was thinking about backing off to deny that teleport.
Yeah, we'll say though, blowing that ultimate from Xochi isn't a good thing. Dragon's coming up in 30 seconds, Tristan, and you're gonna need that unstoppable force if you actually want to start a fight. Even though you burn that flash, well, yeah, it's a good thing. That means you actually have to stall out this next Drake, and you actually have to be there to make sure Wildcard Red can't be in that jungle pit. This is where I have to pay attention to Radiance and see if they can actually prevent this dragon from being taken away. Remember, Shochi does not have the unstoppable force, and if Wildcard Red recognizes that, they can pull the trigger whenever they want, because Equalizer's on the table, Depth Charge on the table, Dragon Rage on the table. Wildcard Red should recognize that Shochi does not have ultimate and should just start a fight whenever they want.
Yeah, the Moonlight Vigil, the only ultimate not available for the side of Wildcard, and that's going to be up in just a few seconds here. They should have their entire team's kit ready and front-loaded for this fight. Meanwhile, the other end of things, the Unstoppable Force, like you mentioned, the Lamb's Respite still not up for a good amount of time. Even if the Unstoppable Force is stalled for long enough to come back up, that Lamb's Respite definitely not going to be available. We see Sochi on the front lines, going to get engaged on here, kicked away from that Dragon's Rage, no longer available on the backside. Plenty of damage being spit out from the Rumble. Winston pops the Zonies, gives his team a little bit more room to work with. Shock Blast combo not going to finish off anyone just yet. Bluster has to flash away. Bradley is still menacing, and he is moving forward. The Unstoppable Force now ready to be used, but there is not a leg to stand on for the side of Radiance. They have to give this dragon up.
And this is what I was talking about, Tristan. We'll take a look at what Shochi was doing. He wasn't able to do anything because Malphite is not the best bodyguard when it comes to other tanks in his arsenal. We look at Malphite, and the best thing he could do was start an engage, but he held that Unstoppable Force all the way until the fight was over. I wanted Shochi to actually get in there and start something to create some sort of disruption, but he just stood there the entire time. A big blunder from Radiance, and we now see him go for an ultimate onto Bradley. This should be a kill for them, but Bradley, he's the only one going down.
And how much can you get off the back of that is the question. Is that just the singular, isolated pick? I mean, there really doesn't look to be much on the map. Baron not even available yet, as it was simply the Herald that's already been taken down. You're just going to be getting that kill when you spend so many cooldowns for it. It's just 300 gold, and you're already facing down Soul after that last fight. And I mean, I'm not really sure what Radiance's game plan was going into that fight. Your Ezreal is still fairly weak, doesn't have a single real completed item yet, as he is still ways away from having that stacked up all the way. The Kindred Lulu is still going to do a lot of damage, but I don't know if it's enough to really match the Lee Sin with the Gore Drinker completely activated, the Rumble who's online, the Jace with his lethality item completed, the Aphelios who's been ramping up slowly. It's probably going to be stronger than your AD carry. There's just simply too much to contend with. You can't really afford to fight that dragon, and you saw there, they really, despite having that Malphite ult not used, I'm not even sure if they would have won the fight even having used it.
Right now, they just need to make sure they're on the same page. Oh, no. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. This
Same
ain't
page,
good.
huh? Real Phillip eating the depth charge. He's going to be running for the hills. Has the Ignite burning down. Will narrowly escape by the skin of his teeth after using every cooldown available to him. Luckily, his AD carry had not backed just yet for the side of Ketong. Vex AD sticking around to ensure that he has safe travels, and he'll have to bodyguard his own support there, as we see a massive move being made up into the top lane. Several members being committed as we see Arrow just walking up in the front lines. Immediate unstoppable force being used the other direction. Dashin has just enough mana for that Dredge lane to come out, uses the auto, lands respite to keep him alive for a little bit longer. The rest of the team arriving. That's over the top. The equalizer. You look at a clothesline. Sochi, he's going to narrowly squeak this one out.
However, all these ultimates are being used from Radiance. Lamp Spike gone. Unstoppable Force gone. Wild Growth gone a little bit earlier too. And the one thing that's on the table is Baron and this top inner turret for themselves. Wildcard Red are pushing the tempo on their terms, and knowing that they have Soul Point, they could easily push themselves for getting that Infernal Soul on their pockets. But this is where I want to see Radiance. Again, man, the thing about Radiance is that they just haven't wanted to pull the trigger. They haven't wanted to just start some on their terms. They've just been waiting and waiting and waiting. And while, yes, defensive play is good, you need to toss in some offense, bruh. You need to toss in that little bit of spice, because otherwise, you're just going to let the entire team take whatever they want. And so far, that's what Wildcard Red is doing.
Yeah, rolling over to die is never a good look, but that's one of the ripple effects of having that bot lane just constantly pressuring, never letting the Ezreal get back to base. You see, at 21 minutes, he is not even close to having his power spike. That is disastrous. You do not pick this champion to be waiting for the late game. This is a mid-game fighter. As soon as he gets his first 1 or 2 items, he should be online and ready to go, ready to battle over these Drakes. And so far, it's going to be Soul Point. It's going to be the actual Soul, and before he can really make an impact on the game.
They still have another 1 minute 40 though, so Radiance can look to just get their second item as soon as they can. Oh no, goodbye Vex. Oh,
he has a teleport coming in. This may be possible if it's the rest of the team. Lulu hot in his heels as well. Not going to be at risk of being burst out now. Now Dokla just feels a little bit silly as he makes his way into the top lane just to die.
All right, I think Dokla was just feeling a little bit overconfident by himself, which he tends to be. You know, sometimes he's like, you know what, I got this. Don't even worry about it. I got the solo kill. But one thing they did burn is that teleport from Sochi, which is a really important thing, and that Wild Growth as well. Two big pieces of utility in Radiance's pocket that they could have saved for future use. However, giving a good amount of bounty to Vex is always not a good thing. He actually went for the Divine Sunder for himself instead of the Dustblade. Knowing that they have some beefy boys on Wildcard Red, so it's a little bit of a change than the traditional Dustblade that we're so used to seeing. But regardless, even though they got that kill, Radiance need to find out a better opening for themselves, because the only thing they're picking up right now is just small pieces of bread.
Yeah, and we have the final, what could be the final Drake, spawning in 37 seconds. This will be the Infernal Soul if it's Wildcard Gaming that ends up on the receiving end there. This may just be the last stand. I guarantee we're going to be seeing some fireworks around this pit as we see the teleport in from Bradley. That was behind enemy lines. Vex AD going over the wall. He's going to get rooted up by Dapkin, but where's the rest of the team? They're all on Baron. This is just a stalling game while they're sneaking this one out. There is so much damage available for Arrow right now on this Aphelios, but it looks like there's something fishy up. They sniff it out, and now onto the backline. This Malphite looking to just mow down the squishier AD carry. He has no follow-up just yet. They're looking to turn this one around. Ketong now following up, has the exhaust as well to shorten the damage. There's the Lamb's Respite. This one's been split off, siphoned off into 2 sections of the fight. Kindred's still up and available, but he's going to be bursted out, zoned off from his support. The real Phillip hasn't been able to get involved here. Vex AD ends up eating the CC. He's going to be chained down. The real Phillip, the next one to drop here. Your whimsy will not save you now. It is Wildcard Gaming running away with this game. They now have the Baron available. They now have the Soul, and could be the game shortly.
Listen, what I say about this composition from Radiance, man, when Sochi goes in, who's going to be there to follow up? Because if they follow up, they have to walk through that Equalizer, that Dragon's Rage, all these damn abilities that Wildcard Red has when it comes to setting themselves up to peel against Arrow. Well, and at the end of the day, while yes, Arrow did fall down, they had to put in so much damn work for them to actually get in there. And because of that, they had to pay all 5 members just to get Arrow. That's usually a trade that you not want to see. But remember, Infernal Drake is on the board. Dokla, of course, is going to try and intercept what Radiance wants to do. But can Radiance come back up with the win? they have to be mindful of what Sochi does, man. He cannot be doing that kind of play by himself because he has no follow-up. No one can be at the back end, but with Wildcard Red having a big goal lead and having themselves this Baron buff and all these stats for themselves, I mean, take a look at that shot glass, man. It does way too much. Both, of course, still having a little bit of a standoff, but someone needs to pull the trigger on the side of Radiance if Sochi finds a good look.
Yeah, the longer this standoff goes, the better it's going to be for the side with the Jace, because those shock blast combos will start to add up. Now the Dragon being started, Radiance feel like they have to find the fight before they get poked down too heavily. There's the Equalizer going to be cooking up this Malphite, and he's not long for the world. Has to use his unstoppable force onto the front line, and there is just simply not enough follow-off. Now Vex AD has to move back here. Bluster using those shields from the Lulu, and they just both get smashed by Bradley. He hops in from the skies, brings the hammer down, and brings this game to an unfortunate end. That's going to be all of Wildcard Gaming grouping up around the mid lane. They want to push this one in and get to bed early.
Leanings from Wildcard Red, and they're definitely going to be making sure that they're just cracking them knuckles and saying that, you know what, let's get to ourselves to a game too, because so far, when it comes to performance, they understand when they can push that offense. We take a look at Radiance. They definitely know defense, but unfortunately, they need to recognize when they can pull that trigger. And so far, from Radiance's side, that's something that I want to see go into game 2. Yeah, while right now mid inhibitor is down, and of course Wildcard Red is looking to take the second one. Having that Inferno Soul 25 minutes in, one of the fastest souls being taken, 15-5, and a over 10k gold lead on their side. This should just be good game over for the side of Radiance.
And finally, Vex reaches that Muraman. He's got his stacks. 26 minutes into the game after Soul has already been taken. That is unfortunate. It's never something you want to see if you're the team with the Ezreal. You're looking to fight the mid game. But hey, that's a little bit of a power spike. Maybe there is some pushback. Maybe there's some windows of opportunity that Wildcard Gaming wasn't previously prepared for. Maybe they can catch them off guard. But I mean, like you said, this one is looking rough, and the chances of victory are at an all-time low right now.
At this point, if I'm Radiance, I just want to talk about what we should be doing game 2, and also what kind of things we can actually look to kind of play the mental warfare on. One thing at this point is, yeah, just look for some aggressive plays and look to see if you can actually punish them, because more than likely all these cans can be stripped out. Vex, you don't want to be here, bro?
Vex walks right into the overheating Rumble,
Okay.
but actually, who is the hunter? Who is the hunted? Winston forced to pop the stasis early on. He's going to get removed from the fight, but that is big AoE from the Equalizer. Sochi moving back into the Lamb's Respite, using his unstoppable force. It's low HP bars all the way around. That's Aphilio's arrow moving forward. He wants to find all the kills, and he will have it. Triple kill for Dokla, 2 for Bradley. It's a full house in the way of Wildcard Gaming, and this is the wildest of cards as they end the game clean. 5 dead on the other end, 3 still alive, and they are just going to walk this one in style.
My man got a royal flush with that kick, man. My man actually kicked one person in a 4 dang man. I honestly, at this point, all 5 members at that last one. Good stuff on Wildcard Red as they just look to finish off that Nexus. And my God, Tristan, Wildcard Red looking dominant in this game.
Oh yeah, we were talking about Radiance. They're a young core. They have a lot to prove. But when you're up against the veterans, sometimes it's just the boomers that know the way. And this time around, Radiance gets ousted in their first game. And you saw in that last fight, a beautiful Dragon's Rage, a beautiful Equalizer. And that's the thing. You may have caught the Rumble in his choke point, but as long as he gets that ultimate off before he goes down, you are going to get absolutely barbecued. Whether you're sitting in the Lamb's Respite or not, you're going to be at 1 HP. And once that ends, it can only keep you alive for so long. That's going to be Wildcard Gaming with a fantastic showing for their first game.
This is where I look at Radiance now. I got to figure out what they want to do. Of course, the Malphite, while yes, it's a good matchup into Jace, Tristan, issue is, and we saw it at that Dragon Pit, is that if the Malphite goes in, you got no follow-up. Have to wonder what Radiance is going on right now in their second wave drafting, because at the end of the day, they opted into a higher execution comp, man. Playing a composition that is dedicated to kiting back, while yes, if you are able to recognize when they want to go in, if you are able to react when they want to go in, you are going to win no matter what. The issue is that you got to make sure all 5 members are on the same page. You playing zoners against a rushdown. The only way zoner wins is if you can catch him on the rock, paper, scissors. If you don't catch him on the rock, paper, scissors, you're losing it 100% of the time.
Right, with that, we're going to be going to a short intermission. When we are back, it is game 2 of Radiance versus Wildcard Red. Can Radiance turn things around, bring us to an even series, or will Wildcard Red have that dominant showing that we were all expecting, but hoping we wouldn't see? Stay tuned. We will be right back. Welcome back. Welcome back. We have Radiance versus Wildcard Red. Game 2 coming up now. Game 1 was a bit, I mean, you could argue that it was a stomp for Wildcard Red. There was windows of opportunity for Radiance, but in the end, it was Wildcard just steamrolling themselves ahead and bringing that Infernal Soul to an end. I am joined once again by Chilling Walk. How you doing? How you feeling about that Game 1?
Honestly, Tristan, that game, Wildcard Red, showed them why they're one of the top teams in Challenger Uprising and in the rest of this Proving Grounds. This team is looking mad dominant. And remember what I said, that all these guys have a lot of individual agency. It showed up in this game. And that's where I love watching how these guys play all the way throughout. And this is where I'm wondering what Radiance wants to do. Because Radiance, they had the correct tools to deal with it. The issue is that they just didn't use all those tools effectively. And that's what I want to see going into this game too.
Yeah, and I really felt like you had some individual differences being shown there. The piloting of the different lanes. I felt like every lane from Wildcard Red had an advantage just purely off of their laning prowess before the junglers even got involved. But even when that did happen, it looked like Winston had Bluster's number that game. The game plan was perfect from Wildcard Red, and they executed, whereas Radiance could not. Now, do you feel like we're going to be seeing a different draft this time around for Radiance, or do you feel like we're going to be getting the salty run back?
First off, Tristan, I want to correct you. This ain't no salty run back. It's either MSG run back or nothing at all. Okay, because everyone knows MSG better than Salt. Let's be honest here. But on the real note, if I'm looking at Radiance, I gotta figure out what I want to do, because I think them playing a kind of composition. While yes, you can win with that kind of composition. It's a lot higher execution. And I think Radiance, what they need to do is keep it simple. Don't be too complicated when the way you want to draft. Set up a solid front-to-back team fight that is relatively versatile when it comes to moving forward or moving backward. And make sure that when Wildcard Red steps up and wants to fight you, you're able to hold your damn ground, because in that game 1, they were just retreating over and over and over again. And that's something I do not want to see on the Radiance team.
Yeah, and I mean, even if your team composition may not be, quite as strong as the opposition's, there are still ways you can outplay. There are still windows that you can use to try and overcome your gold deficit or even your power deficit at the moment. And just falling back over and over again, slowly giving more and more of an advantage over to the other team, that's just a slow and painful death by 1,000 cuts right there. So that being said, going into this next game, keep it simple. That's your philosophy. I like it.
Sir.
We'll see if Radiant actually decides to follow through as we head into this band select, or this champ select, and the bans once again. Radiance, they're going to be under fire on the blue side. Let's see what they decide to go with here.
Yeah, so far I'm liking this Lee Sin ban. It's been notorious so far in the rest of Proving Grounds, especially in the collegiate top 8 too, by the way. Understand why that's being banned. Of course, Gwen, as I mentioned, Bradley, 100% the best Gwen so far in the entire amateur scene. No question. Probably even Academy too. I don't know about that yet, but we'll see what happens when Academy starts meeting up to Proving Grounds if the champion is still broken. Wildcard Red, though, still been more majority of the same champions. Karma, of course, very versatile on the Radiance team, though it can be mad flex between a lot of roles. Kane is specifically targeting Bluster for himself, instantly picking up the Vars, knowing that it is a champion that has a lot of versatility, whether standing your ground. But the biggest thing is that versatility when it comes to that itemization. You can go lethality with that poke. You can go AP with Kraken Nashers. You can go on hit with Kraken plus whatever standard 80 items you want to go for. And I'm liking that Radiance taking that right off the bat.
Yeah, and another thing is that this Varus pick is not just a Varus pick, but it's a denial from Arrow. One of his favorite champions to bring out is the Varus, and they banned that away game 1. They did not want to give Arrow the chance to pick that one up, and instead, knowing that they have the first pick, they let it through, and they immediately steal that one out of the hands of Arrow, which is answered back swiftly by the Rumble Nautilus combo. We saw that last game, and it was absolutely vicious. They're bringing it back to make this game 2 look very similar to the first time around.
Yeah, this is where you look at Radiance and you think about, okay, they have 2 out of the same 5 pieces that are on the board. Lee Sin, of course, being banned away. What else can we take away from Wildcard Red if we want to go that way? And this is where you, even though I did say maybe you don't want to go Mad Poke because you weren't effective at it when kiting back, this is probably a good time to do so, as I do lock in that Jason. This is where Radiance can now start raining a lot of projectiles from a long distance against Wildcard Red. And even though I like the idea, this is where I'm questioning, can Radiance actually pilot it? Because remember, this is a high execution composition that you have to work for yourselves.
Yeah, and poke compositions, when they fall behind hard, especially when you're versus a support that can really hard force and engage, Nautilus, all he has to do is pick a champion, click R, and it's going to be a guaranteed engage one way or another. There are two immobile backline poke champions yet again. Rumble is fantastic versus these two champions in the Jace and the Varus. It's got to be up to Radiance to maneuver around the equalizer and to ensure they don't get burned down to a crisp before the fight can even start.
Okay, and along with that, we're going to be seeing Phillips Jace 2. He's been a champion that does work well on that when piloting this champion, which is something that I'm excited to see. Wildcard Red, of course, recognize that, you know what? If we're going to dive at you, we might as well keep on running at you. Sivir being locked in for the rest of the squad of Rumble and Nautilus. Definitely going to help out, knowing that Radiance did pick up a lineman for themselves, which is going to be the Tahm Kench, and can save someone from that depth charge. But with Sivir, though, she's a little bit different. She helps everyone on Wildcard Red to actually get in there and get a little bit busy against the Radiance's back line. And this is where you ask yourselves on both these teams, what do we need to ban to make sure that for Radiance, Wildcard Red doesn't get in us, and for Wildcard Red, what can we do to get in them? These are all these little things that goes into the second phase of the bans, which is why we see Nocturne being banned away, and along with that Rek'Sai.
Yeah, you definitely don't want an extremely potent diving champion versus your poke comp. You want to deny that as much as possible. I wouldn't be surprised to see something like the Kai'Sa being banned out here just to ensure that there is no way they can really access the backline for free. Instead, it's the Wukong, another diver taken off the board here by Radiance. And so I like the approach, just ensuring that they can keep their backline as safe as possible to let this Varus and Jace really sing out and use their items to the greatest extent.
One thing I'm kind of wondering for Wildcard Red and actually for Radiance, honestly, is if she can actually pilot this Jace. I haven't seen him play Jace in the mid lane, but if they can, it does allow a lot more versatility for the Radiance team as well. And I mean, technically, the Varus can be flexed too in the mid lane, so that's one thing that I'm wondering for Wildcard Red is if Radiance can double flex these two champions into the mid and bottom role, and also at mid and top role for Jace specifically too. Wildcard Red, of course, making sure they're maintaining that lockdown, which is where I really like this pick. Even though, yeah, it could be in the Jace, which isn't a good matchup in the lane itself, knowing that Jace can actually bully out the Jace and knock down some barrels. That cannon barrage is going to be mad devastating when you're trying to run away. So I'm liking Wildcard Red and the identity of the 4-man unit so far.
Oh yeah, and this is a run you down comp through and through on the hunt for the Sivir. I like to pick up there the Sivir, a soft counter to the composition as the spell shield can, on a player like Arrow, he's going to be able to react to the shock blast combos, to the arrows from Varus. You're not going to be able to land as much poke because he's going to be constantly blocking those out to gain the mana back. And when he pops the ultimate, you better hope that your positioning is A1. You better hope that your positioning is at 100% because you can easily get ran down by the Sivir Gangplank combo. And I mean, to pepper that on, you have Rumble Nautilus. Good luck trying to stay safe if you are not a screen away.
Yeah, this is really weird from Radiance, though, because they picked the Hecarim to, of course, dive in. But same thing from game one, Tristan. Who's going to be there to back up to Hecarim, man? Who's going to be there when Hecarim's going in and Sivir on the hunt is boosting everyone to run away? And along with that, Cannon Barrage is going to be laying down some cover fire so that the backup of Hecarim can't be there. That's one of the things about Radiance so far that I'm not liking when it comes to their 5-man unit, is that Hecarim is the only person diving in. Also in this patch, Hecarim ain't doing too hot, not going to lie, which is also another question mark, but identity-wise, Hecarim is something that's a gigantic question mark. For Wildcard Red, though, this is where you pick that size for yourself. You're like, bro, I can take the Chain of Corruption, I can take the Onslaught of Shadows, and for some reason you want to dive into us, I also got that Chrono Shift that I can steal too. Wildcard Red's composition is looking so cohesive so far compared to Radiance.
Yeah, and to kind of go off that Hecarim point, Hecarim has still been known to be viable, but it's really at this point only with the Bruiser build, with that Triforce, something like that, the on-hit items, and when you have that, there just really isn't a tank on Radiance, aside for that Tahm Kench, who won't exactly be the tankiest if he is going to the support role. Zilean could also kind of fill in for him there, but even then, there just really isn't a lot that Radiance can do. If they get a great engage on the side of Wildcard Red, it's just a melting.
Yeah, along with Radiance, this is where you're looking at ways they can win the game early on. You look at Jace, you look at Jace, can win the top lane. If you can set yourselves up for a dive, which they can do. Hecarim can help that Jace in that dive on the top lane if they can abuse Dokla on the top lane. That's one way of winning. The other way of winning, is making sure that Zillion just stays neutral against Silas in the mid lane. Of course, this is Bradley Silas that we're talking about, one of the more notorious mid lane players that loves playing melee matchups into ranged matchups and has dominated a lot from scrims and from everywhere else, from who he's playing with. These are the questions that I'm kind of wondering for Radiance, because this is, again, a high execution comp, and they have to make it work.
Yeah, it's interesting to see these different lane matchup. Who is going where is also what I want to know. This Hecarim is probably going to end up being the jungle, so Tom Kench has the potential to either go top lane or support.
It's going support, dog, 100%. It has to go support,
I'm just saying, there's some different things you can throw out with this team composition, and Radiance is one of the teams that is willing to get weird with it. That being said, though, you're absolutely right. Jace is being piloted by the real Philip this time around. He's going to be up against that Gangplank, looking to last hit the barrels before he ends up getting blown up himself. Winston now, once again, he's running it back on the Rumble. He had a fantastic showing last game. A few moments where he almost got caught out, very nearly finished off at several different points. And so maybe Radiant sees a crack in the armor there. Maybe they're fine with letting Winston get that Rumble again, because this time they feel like they can take advantage of it.
It's very bold. I don't know if they can actually take advantage of it just because Hecarim is relatively weak right now. I think there's a different build now. You don't go Chem Tank, but you go something else. I think you do go back to Training Force or Divine Center. I think it's one of those two, if I remember correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong, Twitch chat, by the way, because I haven't seen Champ in a hot minute, straight up. But we're not really going to see the Chem Tank usually. I think Chem Tank Hecarim is pretty much dead so far. That being said, he is one of the only front lines for Radiant, so if he does go Chem Tank, it does make him a little bit tankier. That which could help provide some sort of offensive line for the Wildcard against Wildcard Red and their full-on dive comp. So you are right that Radiance does have a chance of opening up and figuring out that little bit of kink in the armor of Wildcard Red, but they have to abuse that little small hole that they have.
Yeah, and Hecarim, if he is going to go for the tankier build, his clear speed just gets decreased by an exponential amount. And when you're up against one of the fastest clearing jungles in the game, that is going to be a stark contrast, and you could find yourself items behind the Rumble simply because he's able to clear so much more efficiently, so much faster than you. As the Hecarim, he'll be on the map more for his teammates, and it is just not a good look if you want to try and match his scaling going into the mid-game team fights, going into those dragon skirmishes like you saw last game. Wildcard Red looking to just run away with these pit fights over and over again. This time around, the Zillion has some synergy with the Hecarim. They can try and use those two in combination, in tandem with each other, to dive after the poke has been landed, but it just isn't as cohesive like you were talking about, like Wildcard Red. They just simply have so many tools to run you down if you make a single mistake.
Yeah, but they have to get to that point, right, Tristan? That's the hard part. And knowing that this is patch 11.10, comeback XP is available for Bluster if he just wants to perma gank over and over again. But we'll just have to see what happens for Radiance and see what they can do in this game too.
Absolutely. As I say that, we do have ourselves a short spectator delay that we are going to be waiting through. We're going to hop to a short break, but when we are back, it is Wildcard Red versus Radiance. We're going to see if Radiance can fight back and bring us to our Game 3 decider match. Until then, don't go anywhere. Welcome back, welcome back. We are live and on the Rift with our game 2 from Wildcard Red versus Radiance. How you feeling, chillin' walk? How you doing?
I'm chilling, dog. You know, nothing crazy has changed. But again, Wildcard Red doing something a little bit different in this level 1. We're going full sweeping on all 3 of the bottom bushes and probably gonna start another vertical jungling situation as they did in game 1 because that's what they're posturing up for.
It's cheeky, it sure is. Catch actually channeling the back, did throw the ward down right before he's back to base, and it looks like they won't commit completely for this bot side invade. Just looking to see if they could force out another flash like they did last time around. Instead, it's just going to be everyone backing off, and mostly just handshakes, a peace treaty set down for this level 1.
I'm surprised that Adaption and Arrow didn't go to the Raptors to actually set up a ward. That's one of the reasons why we did see Keetong set a ward right at the red buff entrance, just in case if someone were to do a late invade, spot him on Raptors, and then now we know his pathing. But instead, we're going to have both these junglers starting on the bottom side of buffs for themselves. Bradley, of course, flexing a little bit in this melee to range matchup, and this is one of the reasons why Bradley is notorious when skill checking some of these other mid laners.
And Sochi does give him a few clocks to the back of the head as he moves out, and so a relatively even trade, but still a pop being used burned early on for the Zillion. That is never something you want to see, especially when he goes for the Dark Seal refillables. The refillables don't heal you nearly as much as some of the other pots in this game, and so he's going to be burning through those fairly quickly if he keeps taking those kinds of trades.
Curious to see how Philip actually holds zone against Dokla. This is a winning matchup for himself, but Dokla, of course, looks like he's understanding a little bit of this matchup just a tad bit more in the way he wants to play. So I want to keep our tabs on that to see who actually swings that matchup over towards his favor, knowing how volatile that matchup can be. And it's always that mini game of that barrel situation. Philip turn level 2 is definitely going to get a solid trade back at himself, but with Dokla having that grasp and dying, it's going to be looking pretty good.
Adaption running for the hills. Level 2 being reached just slightly earlier for the side of Sochi in the mid lane eats another hook, and you do not want to keep eating those, especially if you can't hit the bombs afterwards. And yeah, you saw up in the top lane that trial by fire, it does so much damage early on. Gangplank is a difficult champion to deal with in the early levels, as we see more aggressive play out of Keetong here, knowing he has the advantage on the Tahm Kench, playing forward onto some of the weaker early game carries. Hook back in, though. They want a little bit more of the trade. The stacks piling up. The exhaust being used for Keetong. They want to go for this 2v2 kill early on. Arrow doesn't use his spell shield at the right time. Doesn't block out the tongue lash. And now they're getting turned on. Have to use several of their summoners. Every single summoner in the bot lane was burned for the side of Wildcard Red there.
All right, man. A little bit of a situation for the Wildcard Red team. Something that we don't really see from Arrow and Adaption. Usually they're very dominant in this laning phase. But because Arrow locked in that Sivir, a little bit weaker when it comes to just pure 2-on-2s. You have to utilize that spell shield very well when dealing with Vex or Keetong. Either you block the stun or you block that piercing arrow, and that's something that we have to also pay attention to because right now, Radiance, they're winning on both sides.
Oh yeah, and under the turret, Dokla could be in some trouble here with the real Philip. He overestimates his damage. The oranges come through, and everything is a-okay in the top lane for the Gangplank at least. Dokla gets himself a solo in the most unlikely fashion. Now in the river, we see a 2v2 breaking out, but Winston cannot help his teammate. He's going to go down. Bluster now looking for second helpings as Winston flashes away, still holding the devastating charge. Doesn't use it out just yet, and will take the kill. Will take the flash, and will take a fantastic early game start for the side of Wildcard Red Gaming's jungler.
All right, good stuff on the Radiance team, making sure that Bluster getting a kill himself. And the one thing I was talking about prior to this game when we were loading up, Tristan, is that Bluster needs to find some early action. It doesn't matter what it is, but he needs to make sure that he get the snowball rolling ASAP. And with him taking a good old reset back to base, he's going to get a Sheen himself. 2-on-2 on the bottom lane again, though.
You can already see why this lane is so hard. Flash forward, that's the spell shield. 0 for 3 now. Arrow has not blocked out a single spell yet this game with that spell shield. He'll be going down as a result, and that's a 2v2 in the bot lane. Radiance is not here to roll over and stay die. Now Adaption may just give them a second free kill. He's going to get all the blight stacks procced, and he's going to get taken down from the final tongue lash. Junglers even matching here. It was Adaption trying to bait for Winston to come in and clean up the 2 kills. Instead, he just gives himself over for free.
So far, many mistakes coming in, but take a look at the map right now. Actually, we have many plays in Bluster on the bottom side, but TP to punish Dokla. He has already gotten a kill for himself, but we have to go back. We have to see what happens because we have 2 fights going on.
Heatong dead to rights there. He gets cut down by the overheat. Now Dokkan in the top lane on 1v2. Sochi's roam is fantastic, and it will result in some money being funneled into the pockets of Philip. After losing out on an unfortunate solo kill early on, he is going to get some team play to bring him back into this game.
Okay, honestly, so many things happened here. We saw Winston punishing the overstay from Keetong and Vex. Then we see Sochi teleport to the top lane to help out Philip in that one-on-one. Many plays on Radiance so far on both sides of the map, and they're definitely making it work. Unfortunately, they are losing some of these kills and losing resources on the back end of it. Look at Sochi, and he's down a couple of CS. Keetong falling down against Winston isn't something that you usually see. So Radiance, they're finding a lot of good looks, but they need to just make sure they're refining some of these small mistakes and make sure that these small mistakes aren't going to cost them a whole lot.
Man, when you look at the back timing for Vex, it is night and day between this game and last game. This time around, he gets to back tier, serrated Dirk, and a refillable. That is chef's kiss. Perfect back gold. He probably feels fantastic right now as compared to Arrow, who's only sitting on the Caulfield's Warhammer. He has no mana sustain. He has no real punch to his Qs. It's just that tiny bit of AD and the cooldown reduction. That is nothing compared to what the Varus has right now. As we see a fight in the river, Winston up a level, and this is just the clear speed of Rumble helping him out to secure an easy objective.
Hopefully he's going to fish it. I don't know if you want this, bro. You already have Bluster around the corner. But knowing that Winston is right behind him, they're still looking to pressure, too. I actually really like this from Wildcard Red.
Oh, he misses the smite, but manages to throw in one more auto to take it home for himself. A bit of an awkward ultimate there for Dokla, hoping to layer it down with the equalizer, but Winston had overheated on the back end. They're still looking for Philip as he is getting chunked lower and lower under the turret. This barrel combo could prove deadly, but Sochi arrives from the mid lane. It's a party up top. All three members arriving for both sides here, but the stark advantage going over to the side of Wildcard Gaming as they escape on the blast cone. Bluster looking to follow up now that he's reached the level 6 mark.
Bradley, of course, going to say hi to Philip with the absent from his E. But still, White Knight Wildcard Red not afraid of putting out that aggression. This is one thing that I am very happy of. Sometimes they bite a little bit more than they can chew, but look at this little cheesy thing that Bradley and Dokla doing, man. Philip.
They pull the trigger perhaps a bit too early. Instead, they'll just flash forward. Bradley essentially solo kills him. In fact, there was no assist for Dokla there. It was just a complete ousting from the mid laner. Beautiful display of mechanics there to weave the Q past the minions, using the flash and to pick up a free kill onto the real Philip. I'm sure where he's going to be using his teleport as soon as he comes back online, because that was a massive wave that he could be losing to the turret if not.
Yeah, mistakes so far on Radiance when it comes to just these individual plays, and knowing they're putting pressure on Philip, playing one of his more known champions, and along with that, putting pressure on the champion that requires a lot of attention in the early game, ain't going to be doing too good for themselves. Take a look at the gold lead. Radiance and Wildcard Red, legit neck and neck. The only thing separating them is just a pair of shoes, man.
Yeah, and I mean, look at the teleport timings. It's going to be a mismatch now. Dokla will have his available far before Philip has his on, and so maybe they can try and force something around the dragon. In comes the equalizer, the real Philip, caught between a rock and a hard place, and he will get out with nothing. Comes up empty-handed, 1 in 3 now, as he has had several deaths thrown his way. A lot of pressure being shown towards the top lane, and Dokla, you could argue that he's getting his hand held, but this is a losing matchup that he is now ahead in.
Job on Bluster to secure that dragon, and along with this rotation from Bluster and Sochi, they're looking to put pressure on the bottom lane. He goes in, but there's no follow-up to help him out on this dive. The only thing that they can get now is some of these plates, and Winston, of course, going for the reset, now coming back to the bottom lane, could spell doom for Radiance. It's a good thing, though, that they are going to be backing away, making sure that they're not going to be meeting anyone else. However, I don't know if you want this crab, man. Wildcard Red's right around the corner.
Winston doesn't have the equalizer. Maybe this fight is doable, especially when they miss their initial engage. There's room for being turned around, and that's Varus already using the Chains of Corruption. Everyone getting melted down. Winston, I don't know if you're feeling a bit too confident, but allow Radiance to check you. Now it's Arrow on the front lines. He's going to use that spell shield to good effect this time around, but the flash forward, the tongue lash is there, and he is just going to get run down. It is an unfortunate way to go, but everyone getting dropped, and now the bot lane under extreme pressure. This turret going to be losing plenty of plates.
Yeah, I thought Wildcard Red can actually look for that fight, but then I didn't realize Vex does a lot of damage with that piercing arrow. My man shot adaption straight through the heart, and, you know, and that's where it actually works out wonders. Good change of pace from Radiance, knowing that they're winning this early game, which is something that they needed to do, especially off of Bluster. But now looking at him, he 2-0-3. Looking at Vex, he 3-0-2. They both sharing a little bit of some same area codes, but regardless, they're making it work. Vex, my man overstayed though.
Oh, even after the flash, he gets hit by the hook. In comes the equalizer. I'm not even sure if they would have needed it, but that is just the icing on the cake. And Vex gets caught with his hand in the cookie jar, a little bit greedy there, wanting to push in the wave completely. He's going to end up giving over his own life. Now Bluster in the river. He wants to knock back this Silas right into the waiting arms of Sochi, who throws down the bomb, but stealing away the unstoppable onslaught. Now Bluster looking to follow up, has the bomb on his head, but Bradley should be able to make it over the wall, waiting on the cooldown. It won't come up in time. He's going to get dropped by the Zillion.
All right, man. You take a look at Radiance. They're tossing a lot of chaos into the storm, and it's working a lot of wonders for themselves. Liking what they're doing so far. Taking a look at Bluster, 2-0-4. Sochi, of course, 1-0-5. This is something that's been really unique for Radiance when they're always picking supportive mid laners for their jungler to just allow Bluster to thrive. And this is the game that I want to see from Radiance. It's definitely a gigantic change of pace.
This has been non-stop action. This is what you love to see. 14 kills at 11 minutes. They are averaging more than a kill a minute. This is where the action is at. Why would you ever watch one of those boring LCS games when you could join us right here in the bot lane? They're looking for even more. Keetong forces out the On the Hunt. That is the threat of this lane right now. A single tongue lash was so threatening to Arrow that he used his ultimate, and that is a lot of mana. That's a long cooldown just because they were just getting walked at by the Tahm Kench.
Yeah, they're just recognizing the amount of power that Vex is carrying right now when it comes to his piercing arrows, and this is one of the issues about that poke game. But take a look at the top side, TP coming in.
That's already Silas in the river, though. This is going to be a 3v3 if they decide to commit on both ends. Dokla, though, if he ate both of those bombs, he definitely would have been dead to right. Instead, they're buying time for Bluster to come in. Now it's the Silas getting hit up here. The first bomb landing, the second one soon to follow suit. Bradley is gone. Buster on the hunt. I do believe that's it for now, but still, another fight being turned around for Radiance. They are starting to find their stride here.
Yeah, finally, we've seen a lot of life this past couple minutes from Radiance, and it's working a lot of wonders. Knowing that Bradley's off the table, Bluster gonna pick himself a Rift Herald without any sort of pressure from that. But Vex getting hooked again, man. He's constantly overstaying like this.
Oh no, Keetong trying to make it over to his AD carry, saves him again. They want to turn this thing around with the Chains of Corruption landing onto Daption, looking to proc the Silver Bolts, but it's Arrow moving forward. Arrow takes the first. He's going to try and turn things around on the side of Keetong, but instead, he can't stack up the tongue lashes. He's going to get saved. That's Arrow coming up huge for a double kill in a 2v2 that they had no business of securing.
Yeah, and take a look at Bradley too, because he wants to find the mid lane.
He lands the stun though, and he has a jungler in the wings. That's Bluster trampling himself on in. Gameplay gonna commit the ultimate as well. Up top, the real Philip facing a bit of pressure himself. Dokla trying to close the gap. It's a final Q plus the grass proc to finish him off. Bradley lives in the mid lane, and this is chaos all across the map. Somehow, some way, even through all the fighting, the gold is relatively even.
Just rewind a little bit back, Tristan, because there's so many fights happening across the board that we have to take stock. We look at Vex, the man's overstaying way too much. Radiance need to clean that up ASAP, otherwise Vex is getting caught left and right from Arrow and from Daption. We take a look at top lane. Philip is not doing hot, man. This is a Jace that needs to be able to poke along with Vex, and if he ain't poking, that means that one gigantic damage source is right now off the table. Sochi, of course, even though he's playing that Zillion, he's not playing the bombing Zillion. He's playing the, oh, I'm going to help everyone else move fast and support everyone else kind of Zillion, you know? So this is where you look at Radiance, and even though Bluster is 3-0-4, overall the composition later on will still be in favor of Wildcard Red. They need to make sure they stop these mistakes ASAP.
Yeah, I mean, giving that double kill over to Arrow, that was really crucial for the bot lane to get back into this game. Arrow was really looking to play off the back foot there. He was struggling to even stay under his tower. Look how low the HP bar of the tower is in the bot lane. That's how much pressure they were able to get off on the side of Radiance that has now just been forked back over as we see Winston joining the fray in the bot lane. Keetong, I don't think he's living through this situation. He even expends the exhaust. Out comes the equalizer and the depth charge. That combination is not one that you can get through so easily. Now Dokla may have to flash himself over the wall back to safety, but under his tower, I don't know how much safety he can find here. He's going to ult the wave to ensure that they can't reach him so easily, but all it takes is a quick dive. The real Philip, he walks the wrong way. Did Zillion ultimate even get used there? What just happened? There is no way they should have died in that dive.
Man, he definitely had that chrono shift ready and waiting, but Philip I don't know what was going on. Again, miscommunication from Radiance. There's so many good things that's going on for Radiance, but every time they make a good play, something bad occurs, and this is one thing I want to be mindful of. Look at Vex, man. He's trying to find a one-on-one, bro.
That's the Prowler's Claw being used offensively.
There's an
A lot
arrow.
of people, oh, this arrow could land. Flashes forward, right through the heart. Boom, bang. That's the shot they needed. And Vex AD is back into this game. Bradley hiding in the brush, though. Shochi, you better be careful about where you back, because if you eat these chains, you find yourself into a lot of trouble. He's going to get started off, catches Sochi, window shopping, has just enough mana for the ultimate, and Bluster is starting to arrive. He's making his way over. The real Philip as well, matching the teleport from his counterpart top lane. This is a 2v3 right now, but it's the onslaught of shadows, a bait and switch. They just swap places.
I don't know what's going on from Radiance. This is a gigantic departure of what happened game 1. We take a look at game 1. Radiance was playing mad scared. This game, they're just down to throw fist for fist, and even though they take a hit back, they're still down to slug it out. And this is a good thing to see. Of course, some of it a little bit unrefined, but the big thing for Radiance is that they are throwing some punches. They are throwing some jabs and making sure that they are checking Wildcard Red in the way they want to play. If they keep this up and they get in Wildcard Red's head, it can work out, because Dokla, he thought he was safe.
Oh yeah, waiting in the brush, the long con for the real Philip will set his team up for yet another kill, and this has just been an absolute bloodbath this game. No one can stay safe. Dokla is no exception. The real Philip also getting turned on very nearly with its trial by fire, burning him down. That looked terrifying for just a moment, but in the end, they're able to shore things up and bring it to a clean kill. Now Wildcard, knowing that there's knowing that all the pressure from Radiance is being expended on the top side, they decide to move their vision line into the bottom half of the map.
Yeah, this is one thing I like from Wildcard Red. Punishing all the plays on the top side means that you have to give something in return. This game is always going to be a seesaw no matter what. But Sochi, doing the same thing Dokla did, is going to get caught out too.
You just saw the entire team in your bot side jungle. You cannot move up here. Winston going to finish him off, drop him into the stasis. There's Bluster waiting in the wings, but this is a 1v4. Don't even try to save this man. He is gone.
It's all just because Soji stepped a little bit too far. Might as well get whatever you can, and knowing that Dragon is going to be up in the next 1 minute 40, the ultimates being burned is perfectly going to be fine. The one thing that we have to keep track of when these fights are occurring is who's blowing flashes, who's playing these big ultimates around these timers, and that was a good time for the side of Wildcard Red to actually find a solid punish on a Sochi. Again, Radiance, they are throwing punches. That's a good thing, but Wildcard Red are understanding that they have to throw some punches back. It's working well for Winston. Dokla working well for him right now when he's 3-3-2 in a losing matchup against Philip, who's 2-5-2. The one thing, the one person on Wildcard Red though that ain't doing too hot is Bradley. Even though he is a person that loves playing these mid lane champions who can assassinate and get that back line, he is in a sticky situation knowing that he is 1-4-1.
Yeah, and I mean, Zillion being one of the troll champions in the mid lane, you think you have a solo kill, then all of a sudden he resurrects, his jungler is running you over. Dokla caught in a 1v2 yet again. He is chain dying at this point as the real Philip gets eaten, spit out for another 300 gold into his pockets.
Keaton actually might be going in too.
There's not a singular team that can pressure the top side. Now Keaton comes to be the victim. That's another exhaust being expended seemingly for free. Winston already looking to move on to the next player even before Keaton goes down. It's the single trade back and forth with the dragon spawning the next 30 seconds.
Yeah, all these teams are just looking to throw punches back and forth, and the moment you take a look at Wildcard Red, 3 members on the top side immediately resetting because they recognize that this dragon, they need to stop this soul point ASAP. It is Inferno too, and both teams definitely valuing the the amount of damage that it can provide. Especially Inferno Soul on a poke team is going to hurt a lot. I like that while Wildcard Red is coming in, but same thing when you look at Radiance. They're also behind the table. You look at Philip, you look at Keaton, they aren't anywhere close. On the Hunt's going to get used to just like make sure they can contest this.
The immediate chains of corruption being used, Vex AD immediately has to flash out of the pit. He no longer can provide any use to his team, and so despite having all the ultimates being expended already, it's Varus to steal the dragon. How did that happen? The re-engagement, Bluster in the middle of everyone, has that resurrection for him to come back onto the map, but where's the rest of the team? They're not ready to help him, and it was an overextension that will cost them their lives. Bluster barely manages to make it out alive due to his support saving him there, but the rest of his team not so lucky. The real Philip will be going down here, and Arrow still looking for more. Vex AD is on low HP, and it's not going to last them much longer. They will hunt down everyone on the side of Wildcard Gaming.
Mistakes from Radiance, man. They made a good play. Vex, of course, securing the third dragon for themselves is so good, But remember, you are a poke team. You are not meant to get in the fray and start slugging out, because the only person who can put out that consistent damage is Bluster with that Divine Sunder. And this is where you take a look at how he operates with the rest of the team. The moment Bluster went in, he was there by himself. There was no backup. That's one thing I criticized when we talked about the draft of Radiance, is that when Bluster gets ahead, that's a good thing. But he has to be mindful of the way he uses Onslaught of Shadows. And he went in, he had Onslaught of Shadows his butt out of there, and he was still alive, but then he costed everyone that fight. Radiance are looking good, but they can't be making these mistakes time and time again, because you look at the 20-minute mark, Tristan, 38K. They sit there with 3,000 gold in their pocket in favor for Wildcard Red.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a misreading of the composition by Radiance. They felt like they could just stand into the pit and fight. You saw Vex AD posturing extremely aggressively, like they could just 5v5 front to back and win it handily. Instead, he immediately realizes his mistake. The equalizer gets dropped. He has to just run himself to the back of the pit. Arrow barrels straight at him. He was gunning for that Varus, and immediately the flash forced out. That is so much less potency you have as an AD carry when you don't have your safety summoners. And as a result, the ensuing fight was really split up from Radiance. They did not have the same kind of coordination that Wildcard Gaming did. You saw when Wildcard wanted to turn, they popped the On the Hunt, and everyone just goes moving forward as a unit. Meanwhile, Radiance, they just really just didn't look like they had a team identity in that fight.
Right now, we take a look at the side of Wildcard Red. Bradley may be caught, but he is playing with some backup. The only thing on the table right now is Baron, and Wildcard Red are doing a good job controlling all of these chokes of what Radiance wants to get in there for. This is where you look at Wildcard Red and the way they set up plays, and it's one of the reasons why they've been so successful so far when it comes to their entire group stage and Challengers Uprising, is that they are doing a better job of setting up these objectives, and along with that, they're just a better job of just fighting all the way through. Of course, Radiance definitely have the tools to do so now if they want to contest that, but it definitely looks like they're out of left field when it comes to just being mindful of these jungle situations, because they are a little bit late when it comes to the way they want to approach it.
Heatong was a few pixels from death right there. If those chains connected, that Tom Kench was gone. And no chance, even with the flash, that he makes it out of there, especially with the Rumble. Rumble can shoot that equalizer from ridiculous distances. And so a single bit of CC landing means the entire team can be on your head in just a moment. That being said, we have the entire team seemingly ready to group around this bear and establish the vision. Heatong, that was dangerous.
Yeah, I was going to say, man, I don't know if you went back there, bro. You could have just gone collapse, or you could have gone anything. And losing a member in this situation, especially when you're a poke team, is very detrimental, because if you lose someone who can poke, that's 50, 75% of your damage, depending on who's the carry. You lose a tank, that is one of your main two pillars that's already gone. This is the reason why we don't see poke compositions occur being built up when it comes to high-level play, because you need all the pieces of the tool to make sure that they're all well-functioned and well-oiled. One piece breaks down, Tristan, that's it. You know, you can't walk up and step up. You can't team fight. You know, that's the issue about these poke compositions right now, and that's where you require yourselves to be so far ahead that you can actually fight some of these things through. Right now that you look at Radiance, it's really risky to actually start up a straight-up 5-on-5.
Yeah, but Radiance, if there is a condolence for their team composition, it's that they're about to reach their strongest point, in which Vex is going to get his Mermana stacked up. The real Philip already has his. This next dragon is their win condition. This is their soul in 35 seconds. If they can somehow win this dragon fight, if they can somehow just take the dragon, even if it means sacrificing a few of their members, that is going to be a massive boon to activate their composition and to really make this poke insanely hard hitting. And now we see Bradley trying to force the issue himself, finds the chain onto Bluster, who gets some healing back using the Divine Sunder.
Both these teams are just poking everything out. Yeah, they're just making sure whoever has that mid lane priority means that they can access the river first. This is where we have to see if Radiance can actually nail some of these shots from a distance. If you can click some heads, it's going to be very important to do so. But Spell Sheet's one thing, tanks are going to be another. This is the engage!
Here comes the Onslaught of Shadows. Bradley will get ran over instantly. Here comes the rest of the AoE. Even the Zillion ultimate able to be used onto Bluster if it's needed. Vex AD snipes out the Rumble. It's Bluster on the hunt. Dokla, you're running the wrong way, buddy. There is no solace for you here. This isn't even your base. You have one last barrel to be used, and after that, Good luck trying to survive through this one. He does get a fair bit of damage here. Bluster still has a zillion ultimate, though. It's just a matter of time. Dokla doing a good job of giving them the runaround, though. Delaying for as long as possible. Not gonna matter, though. This dragon is dead to Right's arrow, though. Look at him sneak up right now. He wants to try and cue this away. Real Philip, he could be dead. Arrow has just saved his team this game. Arrow has single-handedly saved this game for his team. He steals away the dragon like a thief in the night. It's the perfect heist. Yes, he may go down here, but he's even looking to turn things back around onto Vex. It nearly gets it. He's going to stop the Baron. He's going to stop the Soul. And Arrow is an absolute 5-head galaxy brain genius.
However, I have to credit Radiance in the way they were playing that fight, man. We saw that engage from Wildcard Red, and it was a good look, but the moment you walk in, such good positioning from the rest of Radiance and making sure that Vex can pump out his damage. Philip pumping out his damage. The man got 2 kills in that fight, making sure he comes up on top, and with all these resources being blown down, the only thing left on the table is this Baron. Plus, is going to meet him straight up to head, and this is where they want to start off the fight.
Knowing that Arrow is still dead, knowing that there's so minimal damage available, they just immediately pull the trigger, step on the gas as soon as they get a glimpse of a single player. Winston getting chased all the way back to his tier 2. That flash was a little bit optimistic, but I see what he was going for. The double bomb could have been pivotal. It could have ended the game right then and there if it actually landed, but he just simply didn't have the distance to make it work. So they're just going to regroup, set up vision around the Baron pit. There is still a single ward they have to sweep out, but they have to contain themselves for long enough to actually get the vision advantage, because it looks like every time they even see the slightest chance at a fight breaking out, they are just running at it.
Yeah, this is the first time we finally see Radiance actually put pressure on the map here. All 5 of them having mid-priority, all 5 of them walking into the top quadrant to set up this vision. However, one thing to note is that when it comes to themselves taking down this Baron, they aren't the fastest at it. Remember that Philip and Vex, even though they do have a lot of upfront damage, overall consistent damage is only going to be on Bluster for himself here. That's one thing that Radiance has to be mindful of if they ever want to start. And of course, you also don't want that Baron pounding that backline, man. You don't want to make sure that HP and that magic resist is going to get shredded out. So, still on a knife's edge in this current game right now, Tristan, 27 minutes in, but for sure, all this poke is hindering Wildcard in the way they want to play.
Yeah, 3 items. Credit to Arrow as well. The fact that he's keeping up despite, really his team struggling a lot more in these engagements, he's still on pace to with this Varus. And I think having that scaling to fall back on is one of the only things that really Wildcard can hope to rely on in this game, as the Baron is started up. Look at the rest of the team moving up quickly. They're hoping to force the TP out of the gangplank right now, but I'm not sure if they can even win the fight if he does so. Instead, they're burning this one down. Out comes the ultimate. Out comes the equalizer. There's a lot of AoE damage, but where is the follow-up? Tier 2 turret on the bot lane has been taken out by Dokla. He still has pressure, and now Radiance has a tough decision to make. Do you give up the ghost and just go to defend, pick up the scrapes, or do you try and press this issue, press the attack, and hope to find a fight? It looks like the answer is the former.
Yeah, they kind of caught in a rock in a hard place in that situation of what they want to do. They just sent Philip to just go ahead and just handle that one-on-one, but it was a bold call for them to just kind of start off. But I have to kind of call Winston out on some of these equalizers here, because the past couple fights, his equalizers were not doing too hot, especially in the mid lane fight where he just kind of laid it down and didn't really hit the back line. He was mainly just trying to tackle down the front line before he can get to that back line, but I want to see better synergy from Dokla and Winston when it comes to these ultimate usages to make sure they just pin this back line, because if it works out well, they can find the optimal fight in making sure that these 2 champions with all this poke gets taken down.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see that Winston decided to go for the Proto Belt. It's going to obviously minimize your damage, but it's going to maximize your mobility. And so your Equalizer, you have to position that one well, because if you don't have as much damage to offer as you would with some of the more damage-oriented builds here, like the Leandri's Anguish or even the Night Harvester. As I say that, it's a minute left before we get our next fight at the Dragon Pit. I don't think Wildcard Gaming is going to give this one up without swinging.
Wildcard Red, of course, having the amount of priority for themselves. Arrow, of course, have to use that ultimate to make sure he gets away from Keatong, as he was a little bit in danger of getting collapsed on, but still, a lot of this bottom side control is in favor for Wildcard Red. On Hunt is going to be a crucial ability that they are going to be missing, and hopefully they can play around that, but biggest thing you want this poking composition to do is to have them walk into you. It's one of the biggest things I haven't seen Wildcard Red do. Instead, they've been the ones who's forcing the issue. But knowing that they've given all this control away, take a look, man. Radiance now also have control of this dragon. That's going to be coming in 20 seconds. And now they have to be mindful of how the way they want to approach it. If Bradley finds a flank, though, it will be a good thing. Instead, he's going to catch a nice 50-yard touch ball right there. Has to take a reset, too. Teleport is online. This is where the fight can occur.
Look at the move speed on this Hecarim, and this is crucial. Arrow burned all of his cooldowns to escape. Now he can't provide any damage to the fight, eats the exhaust, and everyone is just firing away on the side of Radiance. They are melting the ranks of Wildcard Gaming, and there doesn't seem to be any counterplay to stop it.
What a solid punish, man, from Wildcard Red. They're still pushing on to Dokla, too, but the win is already there. Dokla, of course, flashing away from the piercing arrow is already going to be it, but man, shouts to Radiance because they punished that teleport instantly. Bradley had to come in very late to it, and now because of that, they're going to be able to take this Infernal Soul for themselves, and now they have a big chance of setting themselves up for this Baron because look at Winston's death timers, bro. He's still sitting there with another 18 seconds left. You can rush down here. You can burn it down ASAP because Infernal Soul helps out a lot. What can Wildcard do? They have to find something. Otherwise, it could just be Radiance's game.
Yeah, and you have to, maybe there's no miracle steal that could even happen at this point, not even trying for it, and I don't blame them. There's not a lot that you can do at this point if you're Wildcard Gaming, aside from waiting for your carries to come back up, regrouping, and trying to pull off the miracle fight. It is going to be difficult, though. Their backs are more than pinned against the wall. They are strapped down to a chair, and they're being tortured right now. There is not a lot of legs they have to stand on at this point, and I hate to say it, but that fight around the dragon was over before it even started. Arrow had burned his Gale Force, which is a very long cooldown. He burned his On the Hunt. He burned pretty much everything he had to keep himself safe, except for maybe his bare bones, his actual summoner spells, and those aren't going to mean much when you have this Hecarim sped up by the Zillion, sped up by the Jace, and added on for some more damage from this Varus from long range. I mean, it is so difficult to stay safe like that, and you saw the punishment perfect there, picture perfect for Radiance, as they're not even going to give any kind of even care to the bot lane. They wanted to set up some kind of trap, hoping that someone walked into their midst, but Radiance knows better. They know they can just group up, siege these towers down, and there is nothing that Wildcard Gaming can do to stop it.
Find some sort of last stand right here, but take a look at that Shock Blast, man. It does so much when it comes to the siege. Look at that piercing arrow too, man. This is where you look at the composition of Radiance and why it hurts so much when you get him in this situation here. Vex, of course, still looking for some snipes, especially when he gets that gigantic move speed boost from Sochi as well. But right now, Radiance definitely have complete control of the steering wheel.
Who can tank that piercing arrow? No one can. I mean, you can't either way because it's going to go through you, but no one can frontline for the team because Dafshin will get melted by that. The Sherilda's Grudge, third item completed. Even building armor won't save you now because this Varus is absolutely despicable with the damage he can do.
It's not going to be looking to do the same thing again. On the Hunt being used defensively now. You know, we speak about Severin, we speak about the way Aaron wants to use this On the Hunt offensively, with this immense diving potential of Wildcard Red, but so far it's being used defensively. The one thing that Wildcard Red does have, though, and I'll be straight up, is that they do have a lot of wave clear. And they do have the barrels, they do have Arrow taking down some of these minion waves and cutting in with those ricochets, but the more you get poked out, the worse it's gonna be.
As we see the ultimates being popped here, Bluster is off to the races right now. Dokla waiting to the side will get a nice little barrel combo for himself, but he is just simply too far behind. He can't make this damage stick. Arrow still firing away. They don't go down as of just yet, but they're losing inhibs. They're losing structures all around, and it doesn't matter if they win the fight or not because Radiance got what they came for.
And with all of them taking a reset too, the only lane left that they have to just walk themselves together is the top lane, and knowing that their poke composition, usually one thing with poke composition is that they're also a really good siege composition, and that's what's working out wonders for them so far. Of course, we see Vex going to pick up that red buff for himself as he makes his way towards the top lane, but all they have to do now is just chill, relax, walk together as a 5-man unit, cover the flanks, because you're going to need to cover the flanks, especially when you're a poke composition, as you don't want Philip and Vex being tackled down. But make sure that you're able to just walk up safely and take down this turret. It's very hard right now for Wildcard Red to find some sort of answer. They need to see if they can catch him off guard or find some sort of hole in this offensive Radiance right now.
Yeah, and Vex AD is very near to completing his Guardian Angel. Once that's done, good luck trying to find any picks for yourself. Already has the stopwatch, and so even if there is some kind of miracle dive onto Vex, he always has the option of just stasising. And you see the barrel combo being landed onto the squishiest member, Vex there. He took next to no damage. He's going to be back up to snuff in no time at all.
This is where the Siege is just working out a lot for the side of Radiance as they're all just walking up and just tapping some heads. Barrel, of course, is going to be a one big wave player, but look at this. Cannon Rush has to be used just to make sure they can clear out this wave. This is the issue when we look at Wildcard Red and the way they want to use it, because they haven't found that engage as of yet. Dabtion isn't the one stepping up, and you see him call for a full-on retreat on the top lane because they have to be mindful of the minion wave that's occurring in the mid lane. Loving what Radiance is doing right now because this is a pretty clean dismantling and burning of resources. As long as they don't get caught out individually, this should be okay.
Oh yeah, desperate plays right now for the side of Wildcard. They're hoping for any backline access. Vex under a little bit of scrutiny here. The real Philip does have his Guardian Angel available. Will be procced, will be popped. Vex AD standing right on top of a barrel. Luckily for him, Ketong there to save his teammate. Dokla eats a big snipe, has to pop the Sterix Gauge just to keep his life intact. And now with Elder spawning the next 56 seconds, it looks like Radiance is deciding to call off the siege for now. They've got bigger fish to fry.
Both teams understand that this could be the last coin flip, and if I'm Radiance, I don't want to coin flip this at all. There's no reason to coin flip this at all. All you can do now is just make sure that this wildcard red team does not actually start this or it comes nowhere close. Big thing though is Radiance doesn't need to start this either. All they need to do is whittle down the health bars from the wildcard red team. If they start this up, it forces a 50-50, and this is a smart move from them as Bluster just creating space with threatening that devastating charge. Loving Radiance and their patient right now, but Dragon coming in 15 seconds. They have to be so mindful of this buff that can just go to either way.
Oh yeah, and you can see them flexing their muscles right now all over Dokla. Dokla takes a lot of damage from that poke, but that's crucial. The Chains of Corruption not landing, you won't have that added threat, that added CC to your team comp if there is going to be that dragon fight. And that missing could provide some kind of counterplay for Wildcard Gaming as they slowly start to move towards this pit.
You need to get in, man. It's 8K in, 7K in. Look at all this choke. Equalizer gets laid down. 6K now. Look at this fight.
And that's the dredge line going to land onto Vex AD, who has to pop the stasis. He's kept the line for just long enough, though. The tension has been turned onto his support, and that means Vex AD is activated. He kills off everyone. Silence in the backline was doing a good job zoning for now. Arrow's going to be taken down by the devastating charge, and the last one standing is Bradley. Unfortunately for him, the Chains of Corruption are back. They're available. It's a quadra kill, and that's going to be the series tied up at 1 apiece. Radiance is here to stay.
As all the members of Radiance walk in, this is a victory that we've been waiting for them to see as they take down this game too. Questions now for Wildcard Red as the Nexus is going to be falling away. Such a good game from Radiance and the way they dismantled it from the early game all the way to the late game. Yes, they had a little bit of blunders, but it's all about how you finish. And Radiance definitely did that in this game too.
They found their stride, they found their groove, and once the ball got rolling, there was nothing stopping it. It was the unstoppable force that met the immovable object, and this time around, the unstoppable force just steamrolled right on through the ranks of Wildcard Gaming to make this an even series. Now, when we come back, we will have Game 3. We will have the tiebreaker, the decider, and yes, Radiance may be out of the playoff picture, but they want to end this series by knocking Wildcard Gaming down a peg. We will have all that and more when we are back from this short break. Welcome back with our game 3. It's the tiebreaker, ladies and gentlemen. You sat through those first 2 games. You had a great time. We did too. And now we get the decider. I am joined by Chilling Walk, who's been having a great time casting these along with me. I'd hope so, at least. And going into this game 3, this is going to be a barn burner. Who do you give the advantage going into this one?
I don't know, man. I mean, we talk about veteranship, Wildcard Red, of course, 100% have, but Radiance, they got the momentum, man. They got the ability to actually take him to game 3. And that's one thing that we always have to factor when it comes to player performance. That mental fortitude can definitely work out. That momentum can definitely work out. I'm kind of in a toss-up, but Wildcard Red, leaning on that veteranship for sure and leaning on them playing a good game, it should still be theirs. But Radiance upsets it, it's going to be a hell of an upset, man.
Oh yeah, and Radiance with nothing, no pressure left. Nothing they have to prove to anyone right now. They are here to prove to themselves that they can compete with the best, and that is exactly what they've shown us so far. Now, like you said, I mean, if I was a betting man, if I had to put some money on the line, it'd probably be for Wildcard. I mean, come on, you look at the lineup they got here.
Yeah.
Dokla, Arrow, these guys are veterans of the scene. They've been in LCS. They have seen the highs and the lows of League of Legends. They've been in situations like this before, and they will be calm, cool, and collected going into this game 3. But Radiance, like you said, you can never underestimate these guys.
And that's always something that we have to be mindful of. Of course, when we take a look at that draft, Tristan, we look at Radiance. And I had questions about them picking a kind of common position because they did that in game 1. It didn't work out. Game 2, it definitely worked out, especially with them getting that early lead, especially off of Blush, because that man was doing real good work in that early game. And shout outs to Vex, too, because the man got a quad kill at the end of that last fight to end it all off in that game 2, too. So, credits to them, man. They played a kind of composition, and it worked out wonders for themselves. Now, big question, though, what do they want to do in game 3? Because I highly doubt Wildcard Red is going to let them have some of these champions for themselves.
Yeah, especially that Varus. I would be so surprised if we saw the Varus actually get through the bans this time, especially, and you see why Arrow loves the champion so much. If you get ahead, you are just destroying anyone who makes contact with your piercing arrows. They get pierced right through, and we saw Wildcard Gaming get collateral, especially in the last fight. You saw Vex AD. They tried to pile drive him immediately. They threw everything in the kitchen sink at him, but he had the stopwatch, and from there, it was just a rolling. Radiance was looking like they were unstoppable come those last few fights, and I'm sure with their heads in the clouds right now, they are looking to bring this one home and looking to put Wildcard Gaming behind Supernova in the standings, or at least put them up to a tiebreaker.
That's always something that I'm just kind of wondering, can Radiance actually step themselves up, or can Wildcard Red actually make sure that they're doing okay? Questions, man, because remember that I'm not too sure what the current bracket is going to be, because Supernova does have a chance of making sure they are the #1 seed coming out of this group. Of course, Wildcard Red is guaranteed, but if I'm them, I got to make sure I come out strong. I secure that first seed no matter what. And if I'm them, that's what has to happen.
Yeah, and how much would you say these games come up to team composition? Because it really felt to me like that last game. It felt to me like at a certain point, Radiance could just do whatever they wanted, and Wildcard Red was just forced to play for a miracle of team fight at that point. Because I mean, by that last team fight, Radiance was only a few thousand ahead. It wasn't actually a ridiculous gold lead.
It honestly mainly happened around that mid-game fight for that mid-lane priority that Wildcard Red started on themselves. Equalizer wasn't landing well, Cannon Barrage wasn't landing well, mainly landing on front line. I remember I saw Philip just A-OK sitting there, pumping out that damage with that shot blast, and then going in onto Arrow because he had the ability to do so. Then that kind of game when both compositions kind of counter each other in a sense, it's all about that execution. We saw a chance of Wildcard Red opening themselves up to make sure they start off with a gigantic lead, but same thing for Radiance. When you have these compositions where they both counter each other, it's all about that execution, who can actually start off on the right foot. And for Radiance, they punished Wildcard Red in the way they executed that team fight, and from that point onwards, it was Radiance's game.
Yeah, and speaking of Radiance, I do want to take this opportunity to chill out a little bit. For those of you who are a fan of Radiance or how they played in that last game, you can get yourself some Radiance merch, some swag, some great hoodies you want to show out, get all the ladies all over you. You find yourself at store.radiance.gg. Chilling Walk, you were the king of drip on the cast here. Do you think you could pull up to a party with some Radiance merch, rocking it?
If Radiance wants to pay me to rock some Radiance merch, I'm down to do it, man. I'm already rocking some I'm rocking the Goody brand right now. I'm rocking some Ray-Bans and the glasses. You know, it all depends on if Radiance wants to get me some good old gear. But one thing that is going to be changed, though, one thing that's going to be changed with Tristan, we are going to be having a little bit of a swap for the Radiance team, and it is going to be Jason Jungle stepping in the jungle position, which is going to be something of a surprise. This is where, you know, Bluster doing a good job game 2. They have to make this swap. So just kind of see what happens for Radiance, because this is going to change a little bit of that team chemistry.
Yeah, and this is one of the things about, Bluster, he's a young kid, he's still got school, a lot of things like that can factor in, and unfortunately, he's not, he can't always stick around for too long in some of these matchups, but hey, it happens. I mean, he's a young guy, he's got a bright future ahead of him. It's okay if he has to, get subbed out every now and then. We're going to have Jason Jungle looking to prove himself, but you have to wonder, how much will this affect the team cohesion, the chemistry of Radiance, now that they have a completely new sub thrown in at the last moment?
Always changes a lot, man. Like whenever you get a teammate swap, when you have the momentum riding on you, it actually changes a lot. When you have the momentum away from you and you come in a swap, it's kind of like a refreshing thing. So for Radiance, I feel like for them, probably momentum is going to be going down just a tad bit because of this swap coming in. But the rest of the team, they still have a chance of making it all the way through. 100% though, you said that Varus probably not going to be let through from Wildcard Red. Radiance, of course, going to be on the red side for this game 3, and Wildcard Red going to be on the blue. Changes are going to be happening in this draft here, and we'll have to see what these two teams want to ban out for themselves.
Yeah, and I feel my biggest concern, honestly, with Jason Jungle subbing in, is you saw what happened in the mid lane last game. You saw Bluster combining with his mid lane to just find kills over and over again. You saw so many times Zillion was able to bait him in using his jungler in the wings to secure the kill on the afterthought. But without that synergy, without that built up coordination, I'm not sure if you have that same kind of pressure coming out into the mid lane this game.
Something that's always been unique of Sochi, that he's always playing these supportive mid laners so far. Will be a change of pace if he does play something more of a control mage, or if he wants to challenge Bradley and play a melee champion into the many mid lane champions that Bradley can't play. The man can play Renekton. The man also plays AD carries, such as Lucian and Tristana in the mid lane too. These are questions that can always rise up when you're drafting against Wildcard Red. And with Sochi, of course, picking a lot of these neutralizing champions, this is game 3, man. If you want to try and test things out, go out with the bang, you might as well do so. That's something that they definitely have a chance of doing if they want to go for that.
And if there is no pressure already on Radiance, there is less pressure now, because not only are they playing, out of playoffs, they can do whatever they want, but they have a sub jungle. Even if they were to lose this tiebreaker, they can still be proud of themselves. They can still pat themselves in the back. They've done a lot more than anyone would have expected coming into this matchup. And so this is as free as you can get if you're a player here. You are completely relaxed, no muscles tensed up, and we might just see some crazy strategies come out with Jason Jungle. Maybe against Wildcard, this is your time to bring out your secret pocket aces.
Yeah, right now we're just going to be taking a quick little break right now as we get word from producer. They're still getting everything fixed up in lobby. So we'll be right back, guys. And when we do come back, Wildcard Red, Radiance, game 3, baby. Let's get it.
Welcome back. We are back from the world's shortest intermission, just a few seconds. It looks like we're all funneled into game. Karma Gwen being answered on both sides for the ban phase here. Chilling Walk. We're back for more. How do you think these two bans are going to play out in this game? And do you think Gwen is just going to be permanently banned away from Bradley in the mid lane?
Dude, this guy, no. 100%, if you don't ban Gwen away from Bradley, you're trolling draft. No matter what. No matter what team you're playing against Wildcard Red, get this champion away from Bradley no matter what. So far, though, something that is surprising is these two neutralizing mid laners are being removed away from Sochi, something that hasn't been picked up for Wildcard Red in themselves. Lee Sin, of course, being banned away from Dokla and from Bradley, knowing that these two guys can play it. Haven't really seen in the jungle straight up, but if Winston wants to pilot it, he definitely can. And so far, these bans are a good change from game 1 to game 3. Nothing too crazy thrown off the bat, but everything has just been a solid progression from the beginning all the way to the end.
And you can definitely tell both the coaches are specifically adapting to what they saw in these games. And I think they've started to realize that Radiance plays often around some of these enabling compositions, these enchanters that allow the other members of the roster to really run wild. And of course, the Varus is taken away. No surprise there. I'm a little bit more surprised to see it actually taken away for Wildcard, considering their blue side. They have the option of just picking that one up first, but I do believe they're prioritizing their jungler a little bit more in this matchup, and it's Udyr over the Rumble this time around. Would you have expected that?
Heck no, man. I think if I'm Wildcard Red, I'd definitely be okay choosing the Rumble for yourselves. Of course, yeah, maybe Winston missed out on some ultimates, some crucial ultimates when dealing with them, but just like going to be picking the Udyr just to start up some fights, and it is relatively flexible. You can move backward, you can move forward, you can dive, you can be a bodyguard. But for Radiance, the question is going to be, with Jason jungle in the jungle pool, does he play the same as Bluster? That's one thing that I was wondering when it came to these two bans, you know, because you see Karma, you see Lulu, and that works when you had Bluster on the board. But with the sub jungle coming in, is Jason jungle going to be the same when it comes to Bluster, and can he pilot the same champions when it comes to, because right now Radiance, they're going to stick the same way with their jungle mid duo with Hecarim and Zilean being locked in.
Oh yeah, so while he can technically play the same champion pool as we saw Bluster play there, I don't know if he can play it to the same ability. We're about to find out as we see the run back from Radiance. They've got the Zilean, they've got the Hecarim, and they want to replicate their success. That's what they based it on last game, and they want to keep things similar. The only difference is they no longer have the option to pair the Varus up with this composition. It's time to see what else they have in their pools.
Yeah, and Bradley going to be going back to the Sylas from game 2 to game 3. Game 2 didn't really have that insane of a performance. He did go down 1-4, 1-5 in the early stages because of that, but Jason's on the table. It was the champion that just rose up in priority when it came to this entire series, and with Wildcard Red picking it for themselves, it will be a good change, knowing that they could technically flex the Sylas and Jace around.
Jace going up towards the top lane. This time it's going to be for the side of Wildcard, and so Dokla is going to have his hands on that. The real Philip was the one to show out on that pick last time around. Wukong, being hovered, locked in here for the real Philip. This team composition is going to be insane with their dives. Zilean, Hecarim, Wukong. Your backline has to be Monka W at the moment, because they are never going to have a moment to breathe.
Yeah, Radiance definitely now showing their faces in this draft now. Hecarim's, Wukong for sure diving in. I like the Senna ban, knowing that Senna does a really good job just making sure that that kind of dive is nulled, especially with that Dawning Shadow, especially with her healing everything up. So liking that ban so far. Wildcard Red though, now have to figure out if they want to dive in or if they want to kite back, because so far the 3 champions that they've chosen is relatively versatile when working with that acceleration gate. Kai'Sa, of course, being the main champion to ban away, knowing that she can always dive in with the Radiance team. And actually, instead, they're banning away the Ezreal. That's something unique.
Yeah, and one thing that's interesting is that we're going to have a lot of AD carry bans. Neither side has picked up their AD carry, and this champion pool is going to be pinched. It's time to see what they can bring out when they have all their main pools just completely wiped off the table.
Thresh being banned away too, just in case the Wildcard Red wants to pick a Philios Thresh. I like that little option that they're going for. Kai'Sa just makes sense. I would get rid of it if I'm Wildcard Red personally, knowing that they're going to be diving in. Yep, that's going to be a solid ban too. And this is where I'm looking at Radiance, and you got to ask yourself, what AD carry do I want to pick that works with Hecarim, Zilean, and Wukong? You know, there's only so many that can actually jump in. Tristana's on the table, of course. Lucian is on the table, but, you know, we don't really see Lucian in the bottom lane anymore. A Draven can be on the table. Arrow, that's a solid takeaway if you don't want Arrow to pilot that champion. Instead, we're going to see a Corki being picked up, which speaks to me in my head that Zilean is going to be going into the support role.
Yeah, and wow, Corki, that's most likely a bot lane Corki. First one we've seen in I don't know how long, and this is what happens when you have all these AD carry bans, you start to get some of the weirder picks in the bot lane, and I like it though. I mean, you have the package, you can participate in the dives too. You don't need, oh, Samira being hovered here for Arrow locked in. Corki versus Samira. I have zero clue how that lane matchup is supposed to work out, because I mean, how often do you see Corki versus Samira?
Well, I don't think it's going to be Corki in the bottom lane, Tristan. Just a heads up. I think Corki is going to be in the mid lane, and Zillion's going to be going support right now. Because Corki does have a favorable matchup in the size in the early laning. Of course, one of the issues with Corki is that you don't really do too hot until you get 2-3 items, you know? So it's going to take a hot minute for that to occur. Wildcard Red now pivoting fully into meeting punches with punches. You know, if you're going to dive in, we're going to dive in. We got Samira, Rel, Silas, Deer. Jay's going to be the main artillery use on their team, whereas Radiance, now they get a choice of what AD character they want to pick when dealing with this dive. Because now you have Corki, you can also supplement that with some more kind of disengage for yourselves too. You know,
it is just going to be a slugfest in this game. Look at these champions. This is how you fight as much as possible. Janna locked in. It is Corki in the bot lane, Zillion mid. We have our bot lanes locked in. Samira Rel versus Corki Janna. I am completely confused. I am confounded, confuddled at this matchup, because I have never expected to see this in 1,000 years tonight.
I need to check this. Hold up. Vex is a man of many talents. I gotta check something real quick, okay? Pulling up these pull up like what he's played so far. He does play Corki a good amount. What he played last year though. I mean, he does play Corki straight up. So, you know, if the person's gonna be pulling Corki, I definitely gonna assume it's gonna be Vex for sure. So it is gonna be the Corki in the bottom lane. But remember that Corki depends more on levels than items. Even though eventually he will need items to help fight against this composition. Big question marks for Radiance, but I am happy about the spice that Mr. Vex himself threw in. I'm down for it.
Oh yeah, Corki not known for having the best early levels when he's trying to just ramp up, when he's trying to get that tier working. But I mean, hey, if there is a neutralizing support, it's Janna. But there's going to be a lot of eyes on this Janna right now to counteract the Rel as she tries to stomp in. It's not going to be easy by any stretch of the imagination, especially, I mean, a single mistake against Rel Samira, you're gone.
In theory, this matchup is favorable for Janna. You know, in theory, you have the NATO. You can slow her down. You can easily, on paper, you can react to the Rel engage with the W. You know, it's not that bad when it comes to just looking at how these champions function individually. The question is, though, is that does Janna work with the rest of the composition? It's hard to say, man, because you got 3 people who want to dive in, of course. I mean, 2 people who want to dive in. You got 3 others who want to kite back. You know, you're relatively fluid when it comes to the move speed. Hopefully, Janna can work well when Wildcard Red wants to engage. It's that kind of a small little push and pull that will occur. And now Keaton can pilot this Janna to a mad efficiency and like straight up deny all sorts of engage from Daption. That will work out 100%. But we don't really see this matchup a lot. A lot of teams would rather just value Alistar, have it a better body in that one-on-one, and of course, just headbutt him away when you see that animation come through. So this is all just a test of strength of Keaton and Vex from this bottom lane that we rarely see straight up.
Yeah, and I mean, the Janna versus Rel, it reminds me of the Leona Thresh, whereas, yes, this is a Janna favored lane, but at the same time, if you misplay a fight, it is so easy for this Rel to just punish you, for you to get all your summoners forced out if you maybe step too far forward, just to waste a tornado on the wrong engage. It's not pretty. It can get very volatile down there, and it's going to be a test of strength, like you said, to see if they can play to perfection in this lane.
Yeah, I'm just looking at Radiance and the way they want to play here, and I think they need to do what happened in game 2, you know? Get some early kills early on, start slugging as soon as you can on the top side, specifically with Wukong and Hecarim, potentially set up dives against this Jace too, against Dokla, so you can actually have that little bit of a early agency. That's one thing that I think Radiance needs when it comes to the way they need to win the early game. Whereas Wildcard Red, I feel like if they just sit there and just be A-okay, they should just be able to scale all the way through until, of course, Corki just starts taking over the game. That's one thing that they have to play against. So it's like everyone has little timers in both compositions, but like, you know, these timers are just so far apart Radiance has to win in like the first 5 minutes and then survive till Corki is, or Wildcard Red that stay stable until they start recognizing Corki starts getting again strong later on. It's a lot of these little push and pull things. So at this point, I feel like it's just gonna be coming down to execution.
Yeah, and one thing I'm going to be looking at is the Wukong. I mean, the Wukong has the potential to really start and engage off for Radiance that can end up turning the fight completely on its head. You combine the Wukong initiation with the Hecarim follow-up on the dive, and you can just completely displace the entire team and get so much AoE damage down to set up that Corki, who will ramp up, who will reach points where he will start just tearing through any member he runs into. And if Radiance gets to that point where they can find their groove in their team fights like they were last game, then I am scared for Wildcard Red here, and I love the absolute insanity of this last draft. I want to see how these two team comps play out because it is very hard to predict considering all the champions we so rarely see in tandem with each other.
You should bring up that Cyclone too, because I agree that is going to be a pretty pivotal way of just controlling space against the Wildcard Red team. You know, cancel Zamira ulti, cancel Jace from moving away, cancel Silas from going in. A lot of unique ways of what Philip can do when it comes to these team fights breaking up. But I agree with you, man. It just comes down to that execution, that small little thing of who can get off the right engage and who can actually play the spacing game, you know?
Yeah, and with that, it looks like it's time for our final intermission before we are into our deciding game. We will have our short spectator delay, and once we are back, it is the moment you've all been waiting for. It's Wildcard Gaming against the ropes, up against Radiance, looking to find their big win and go out on a bang. Until then, we will be right back. Don't go anywhere.
transformation.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift.
Welcome back, welcome back. We're on the Rift with our game 3. Already some early game shenanigans as the Silas over the wall. Jason Jungle seems to be in his line of sight, but not enough range on the chains just yet. Just the behind enemy lines mission here for Bradley, or for, I believe that's Dokla on the Silas, and he's just waiting on a second set of cooldowns. Now Jason Jungle, he's getting engaged on from all different sides. The flash forward from the rail not going to land. Instead, it's just a trade of summoners. Ghost for flash, but that is beneficial to the side of Ghost. Ghost is way shorter of a cooldown.
Wildcard Red has always been doing this little cheeky thing in level 1 of just going in on the red side just to get some vision or to do anything else. But surprising, all they did was basically just get that ghost, and then they didn't lay any wards. They didn't place anything else compared to game 1 and game 2, which is surprising. I guess they just want to make sure that they're not burning these early resources, because when it comes to that game 2, Radiance was definitely playing that early game real fast.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know about the trade of Flash for Ghost, but hey, if there's any bright side, it's the fact that Daption does have the Hex Flash, and so it won't be hurting him nearly as much as you would see maybe a solo laner's Flash come out. Either way, junglers starting opposite sides of the map here. We probably won't get much action between them early on unless someone wants to go for that double scuttle. Now Dokla immediately engages onto Sochi here, but he's going to follow him with the bomb on his head. Plenty of return fire.
Yeah, I'm kind of liking this little lane swap that they both did, knowing that Bradley is the one piloting the Jace again instead of Dokla. And, of course, Radiance have to play the cat and mouse game of what matchup do you want to set it into. Of course, they want Philip to have the good matchup into Bradley, man. Jace, of course, loses to a lot of these gap-closing champions, but Dap's just starting off a little fight in the bot lane. Just a little bit of trade here and there, but that's pretty much going to be it. I'm just happy to see Vex on this Corki. The man's been hyping it up when we were in post-game. I take a look at his stats, like, yep. This guy does play Corki a lot in the bottom lane. If he makes it work, I think it's something we got to keep our eyes on.
Yeah, level 2 being brought up for both bot lanes. No real advantage gained just yet, but you like these trades so far if you're Daption. Yes, you're losing a bit of health on the support, but you'll trade that any day of the week if it's on the AD, if Vex is getting pressured here. But it looks like so far, no one's showing too much of an advantage in either lane just yet.
Of course, I expect a lot of this patience from both these teams. You know, this game 3. Of course, on the other side of the group, AoE, Brady, and Supernova are in their game 3 too, so it kind of technically matters for this game of who gets first and second seed. Sochi taking a lot of damage, though. Does have to be mindful of Dokla pressuring this top lane.
Yeah, both on very low HP. Sochi's starting to run out of mana slowly. We may see some teleports come out as we see the heal being expended early on. Keatong under some trouble here. Has to flash away. Ignite is burning. Has to use the exhaust as well. But Daption now taking a bit of return fire for himself.
Good stuff on them. Winston is around the corner, though, so they can look for a gank. The wave itself isn't looking pretty good. Good engage.
Flash forward, Udyr bear slaps both of them. They're going to get hit up, and no flash for the Janna. Gets dropped for first blood, and this is never something you want to see. Arrow Samira getting first blood early on.
You know, one of the issues about Keaton and the Janna itself in this matchup is that, yeah, you can stop that gigantic engage, but when Daption hops on the horse, he's going to be running fast, and that's one of the issues about Janna in this matchup. Is definitely abusable. And knowing that he doesn't have flash and exhaust anymore, this bot lane can definitely be very volatile when it comes to that straight-up 2-on-2 now. Take a look at this. They want to fight over that top scuttle. Winston and Philip, JJ, everyone's fighting.
JJ just gets evaporated there. There was nothing the Zillion could do, a double bomb or not. He is not making it out alive, not against an Udyr. Silas collapse early on, plus the Jace, ridiculous early game damage that can be spat out of all of those champions. Now Sochi forced to flash away, Dokla following him all the way under the turret. One more passive proc, it's just the auto, and the Chains win this one out. It's 3-0, Wildcard Gaming have put their foot down.
My God, this aggression is working so wonderful, and Dokla having 2 kills in the side lane is something that you do not want to deal with when you're Radiance. Something about this entire set is that Dokla hasn't been the main man to just actually carry this game, but this is, if he's going to do so, this time do. But action in the bottom lane, Arrow and Daption, look for the engage.
Critically, the tornado actually cancels out the stomp, but Keatong still ends up eating the stun for himself. Arrow dashes in even further. He's level 3, level 4, but he's got damage. Vex AD low. He's gonna get the second kill for himself, not before being traded out. Hecarim is there to ensure that his teammates do not die in vain. Now Daption receiving some scrutiny for himself, but he's tanky enough to get back to his turret and to make this an overwhelmingly positive trade for the side of Wildcard Gaming.
Hold up, man. I just want to put eyes on Daption when it came to that bot 2v2. The man called out the 50-50 so damn smart, because remember, whenever you go in, you have to be Keaton can always call him out with the arrow. But you know what Daption did? The boy just walked up and be like, you know what? I'm being just in range, so I can actually set a stun up and actually secure this 2-on-2. Yeah, JJ was around the corner, but if he wasn't, that's a straight up 2-on-2 in favor for Wildcard Red side. Smart stuff, and this is where, whenever you are in a disadvantageous matchup, what can you do to force that call out? What can you do to condition them to utilize all your assets, and Daption playing that interaction so damn well?
And this is one thing you love to see about veteran rosters. It feels like they always have a way to squeak out these advantages in the laning phase. As you see Arrow just walking up forward, knowing that his support was around the corner, even not having vision of the jungle. They were willing to take that fight because they knew Vex had expended all of his mana. He didn't have the same kind of HP bars, and despite being a level down, they were willing to press the issue, and that gained them 2 kills in the bot lane, even wasting the jungle time as well. And, I mean, Jason jungle showing on the map there just gives so much more breathing room to the rest of your team.
Radiance, of course, making sure they can just hold on to this lead. I like this little 3-man formation that they have in the jungle from Bradley and Winston and Daption, just making sure they're just walking in and setting themselves up for this first Drake take. You know, in game 1, they got the soul 25 minutes, and they could definitely do so. Philip gonna get dove though.
Onto the turret he goes. He's gonna hope for that Zillion ultimate, but he's only level 5. His teammate simply didn't have the ultimate to be used, and Philip gets dove clean as a whistle. Now Arrow dives in a 1v2, uses support to line up the stun, very nearly gets the kill, but squeaking out with the skin of his teeth, Keaton gets to keep his life for just a little bit longer.
And that's what I was talking about, man. When you look at Rel in that individual one-on-one, yeah, that works, but that stun from Daption, man, such an easy setup from Arrow to just set themselves up. Dokla, of course, going to take some heat because he's a little bit overstepping.
JJ, oh my goodness, look at the damage. He steals the Onslaught of Shadows, takes the first in the 1v2, and Dokla is an absolute animal.
My God, man, Dokla is so good. It was a smart option, but, yo, we get action all across the board because Wildcard Red, they set themselves up for a bot lane dive.
Keaton is dead to rights here, about to hit the ultimate, about to hit the gas on Samir. It's the Udyr to pick up both of those kills. Sochi now under a lot of pressure, forced to use the ultimate and back all the way off the turret. This is Wildcard Gaming realizing that they need to win this game, and they're showing why they're one of the top-ranked teams in this league.
My man Winston actually just ended the entire bot lane's entire career. Call this man super hot fire, because he legit spit super hot fire in that Phoenix stance right now. Wildcard Red, I don't know what happened, but my God, you guys are going all in on this draft, and it is working wonders. Look at all the area codes right now, ladies and gentlemen. 300, 301, 102, 213, 104. Only one death is sitting there on Arrow, and that's pretty much it. That's what I'm talking about. 10-1, 5K gold lead, 8 minutes in. You can't stop that.
Yeah, and I mean, stacking the deck, Wildcard Gaming is front-loaded this time around. They are pulling no punches, diving over and over again. So much pressure everywhere on the map. It feels like you really have no options if you're Radiance right now. Dokla just simply turns a 1v2 in the top lane and kills everyone in his warpath. There is no stopping this guy, not anytime soon. Vex AD doing whatever he can, using his package to clear out a wave. And I mean, they simply don't have a leg to stand on right now.
that's why I want to take a step back and figure out what the heck Radiance can actually do, because this is a gigantic change from Game 1 to Game 2, and that's why I kind of wonder what happened between the communication of Bluster coming out and Jason Jungle coming in. You know, of course we have the Zilean Hecarim duo, but because it's not in the mid lane, Hecarim isn't able to just kind of run around circles across the map with Zilean himself. You know, Sochi's kind of pitting himself in the top lane because of the matchup, but even then, it's not really working out too. You know, take a look at the Shock Blast in the mid lane. Because Jace and Wukong isn't in a long lane, Bradley gets even more room to breathe. All these little changes is what changes this matchup, and it's working well for Wildcard Red. Take a look at Daption. He's
Another
okay
stun, this time onto Vex, has to flash out immediately, but Daption, he's eating a lot of turret shots. A single auto will do it. Vex no longer having the flash, lands the rocket, but it's all arrows. He dives in, cleans house on Samira. It's a double kill in the bot lane, and they're gonna push the wave right into the turrets. That's plates galore. Money is raining.
My man Arrow legit just picked and rolled for his boy Daption, man. Daption was taking so much heat, but then he activated the wind wall. He activated that spicy W to make sure Daption lives. Wildcard Red are playing this game so damn well on a mechanical perspective. Brick, man, Radiance, I don't know what y'all can do at this point. 10 minutes in, maybe Philip can find something on a Bradley.
Oh, it's going to be close, but Philip comes out on top, and the one shining mark on the team is going to be in the mid lane. Now Hecarim in a 2v3 situation, maybe a little bit overzealous on the side of Wildcard Gaming. For sure, the Sylas must be dropping here, but he steals away the Zilean ultimate. He'll be respawning with plenty of HP to work with. Winston forces the Zilean ultimate out on the other end, and they are out of damage. Nothing left in the tank. The double bomb may pick up a kill onto Winston, but he has the bear stance, he has the turtle stance. Ketong is the last one alive. Here comes the real Philip, though. He wants to bring these numbers back in his team's favor. Ketong, he's left all alone. He's left alone. He dies alone. And a triple kill for Winston. 15-2. This is a ridiculous scoreline at 11 minutes into the game.
Man, they just recognize that the deck is hot, man. The deck ain't cold. They eating blackjack all day. They only need a 6 to hit 21. Tristan, don't know what's going on, but Radiance, they're not looking too well. TP on the backside. Vex already going to fall down, but it's not going to change a lot.
Oh, the Immortal Shield Ball. Oh my goodness! Zilean gets chopped in half. Maybe finally we see the shutdown gold collected on, but Hecarim no longer has the devastating charge. No way, it's a triple kill. Arrow is still alive. This is impossible gameplay. This is illegal. How is he managing to pick up this many kills on Samira early game? And if you want a chance at Radiance winning this game, you have to be huffing some real copium right now.
I don't know what they can huff, man. Don't know what you can do to change up the situation. Because the only person who could potentially get the win the one-on-one is Philip against Bradley, but Doak legit just run across the map all day, every day, man. I mean, look at this guy. Look at them. Just look at this guy take everyone else down. My God, 4-0-4. You got Winston. He actually built in Medjay. He got Chronicles of Narnia in his inventory too, bro.
This must be some kind of record for the quickest 10k gold lead I have ever witnessed in my life. 12 minutes, and it's only getting worse as the real Philip will try and use a desperation all-in tandem with the Zilean. Still comes up empty-handed, as this time around the Jace did have the flash to work with.
I don't know what you can do here from Radiance, man. I'm being straight up honest. The Winston trying to build up his next chapter. JJ, of course, taking the crabs away, but he wants to fight, man. That's Hill's crab.
Oh, it's so close. The bomb explodes. They finally get some counterplay here, but Dokla is here to evaporate the destroyer of worlds. This Sylas cannot be stopped. You can only hope to contain him, and that time has long passed. Dokla's running amok. He's 7-0-5. I would love to see him pick up a Medjay's because he will have an entire book filled up.
All right, man. At this point, you might as well. At this point, everyone should just build up a Medjay's. Man, go back to Season 10 and get it. Season 1 and get Sword Call. It's also going to die, too. At this point, 1-6-1. I said about the bot lane, I need to see some impressive things about the bottom lane, but Vex ain't looking too hot. Ketong ain't looking too hot. My God, JJ and Sochi, they are not looking too hot, man. This has been the biggest stomp I've seen so far in Proving Grounds this hard. And Wildcard Red, don't know what happened in that pregame talk. I don't know what ADFX Morgan was saying to him, but he was like, yo, stop freaking trolling, man. Just beat their heads in all the way down, and is working wonders.
Arrow just picked up an entire collector on that back. He just had the Immortal Shield, but that was the only thing he was rocking with. He goes back to base, drops a fat stack to get himself an entire item. And this next dragon fight, if you even come close to contesting this on the side of Radiance, you know they're just ready to have this game come to a short end. Because at the moment, they cannot even get within a 10-mile radius of Wildcard Gaming without just instantly getting evaporated.
Yeah, I don't know what to say, man. Radiance, maybe try and find something, maybe try and find catches, but there's so much offense that Wildcard has already thrown in, probably caught Radiance off guard so much that even if Radiance were to find some sort of hole in this offensive play, Wildcard will still be a-okay because they have 13K sitting in the bank that they could just kind of toss in, you know? We talk about investments. This is legit 13K that they could just throw around. In Wildcard Red, they have all the money in the world they can gamble with against Radiance. They can do whatever play they want until that money starts dwindling and becomes even. That's where Wildcard Red will start to worry about them in the red.
The bot lane right now for the side of Radiance is a combined 1-13. And I mean, I would say that's a bad thing, but at the same time, the rest of their team, at least they're doing it as a team. Everyone is having a terrible game together. And so you can at least say that, oh, nice Monsoon on the back end. Gonna try and lock them up for long enough for the rest of the team to collapse on. They've already got one for themselves. Dokka's sitting on quite a bit of shutdown gold. If he goes down here, that is a lot of money to line the pockets. The bomb's already being set up, but Dokka goes back in for more. 1,000 gold going over to the Wukong as we see the rest of the team starting to funnel through. Arrow is here, and he is here to collect. Already 2 kills going over him. Maybe it's the Penta. He still has 3 to find, but this Wukong doing plenty of damage. The Immortal Shield Bow providing the life steal. Second half, the ultimate triple kill now. He's left in a 1v2. Evaporates the Janna. The Quadra is here. Penta for Arrow as he stands on the 1v5.
Yo, go ahead and do a dance on them bodies, man. My God. My boy Arrow, he's making some shimmy moves. He was like, yo, everyone, put some money on the field. Don't worry. I got pocket aces in my hand. Trust me. My man comes up with a 5-man ace pentakill for himself. This game's over, man. And if I'm Radiance, you checked out. That's it.
30-7 at 16 minutes. This is far and above a kill a minute game. We're seeing a lot of action, but unfortunately, this action is one-sided. That was pretty much the miracle, the dream engage for Radiance. You will not find a better engagement like that if you crafted it yourself, if you drew it on paper, and even then, they come out short-handed on the fight. Vex AD now very nearly getting solo killed out by the Udyr, who's still trying to stack up, add some pages to his Medjay Soul Stealer. Unfortunately for him, he's still being followed up by Sochi. There is still fight in this roster of Radiance. The only issue is, I mean, they're pretty much fighting with sticks versus a nuclear device. And Bradley, speaking of nuclear devices, he is going to shut down Vex AD with a massive combo.
I just want to see another pentakill from Arrow, man. I'm just being straight up honest. We see Dokka going in. He has the Onslaught of Shadows too, but all this damage ain't going to change anything. Of course, you have Winston and Dokka both having Lord of the Rings in their inventory. They're trying to make sure they get the entire trilogy and the Hobbit in. But at this point, 17 minutes in, how many can you get? Twitch chat. How many can these two finish up them books? And also, how many more kills can Mr. Arrow himself get? That's the question that we all got to ask ourselves at this point, because Wildcard Red, they definitely gambled themselves and they came out full on top.
Oh yeah, and what better team to gamble than Wildcard Gaming? Out comes the Corki Rockets, but they are tickling right now. This Corki does not hurt by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
He's gonna need to get his merman if he wants to demand any ounce of respect. But as it is right now, just the Essence Reaver sitting in his inventory as compared to Arrow, who is on 3 items. Plus he's got the Herald just for funsies over the wall. Jason Jungle has to abandon all of his camps because if this Samira even looks at him funny, he is absolutely dead. The real Philip now caught in between a rock and a shooty place as the Samira is already on his backside. He tries to fake the clone, not gonna work out for him, and it's just Samira once again collecting on more and more kills.
Oh my God, Wildcard Red are just sending in loads of money right now. All that esports money that they making for themselves is definitely paying off. Because right now we look at the top lane, Dokka, legit double CS at the top lane. We already see Dokka going. I mean, look at this guy.
No, stop, guys. This is just rude at this point. They're not even waiting for their creep wave. They're just enjoying themselves.
Okay.
They are savoring this game.
Okay, 14 and 12 now. Okay. They haven't finished Lord of the Rings yet, guys. They still missing the 2 towers. They're about to hit the Battle of Helm's Deep right now. I want to see if they can actually finish 25 stacks on both them books. Of course, you know, having a dancing Shelly is always a good thing too. But if I'm looking at Radiance, we can see all of them sitting in the base. They may have just given up.
Oh, Shelly
yeah.
will not have the last dance. Shelly does die off the last turret, but man, what a way for this series to conclude. Unfortunately for Radiance, they did have to swap in their final sub player, the real Philip, now hoping to improve his KDA just a slight bit, 1,000 gold in the pockets. They're looking for even more, but by then, the Nexus is already too far gone, and that's going to be the series wrapped up in a nice, neat little bow for Wildcard Gaming.